My father is a goblin, hideous beyond description. But I am not only absurdly good-looking as a goblin, I am also mentally mature and ruthlessly decisive. All because my mother is an elf, ethereal as a fairy. And before my rebirth, I was a top-tier assassin. When I open my eyes, I see a beautiful woman trembling before me. I ask, "Are you my mother?" But before I can get an answer, a goblin whelp born alongside me is already lunging at her. Acting on pure instinct from my past life, I tackle him and pin him beneath me, ignoring his frantic struggling. I grab a nearby rock and smash it into his throat. Almost the instant he draws its last breath, a system voice sounds in my mind. "Congratulations! At the moment of birth, you have slain one of your own kind with decisive force. Skill Devour acquired, strength +1. I ignore the system and reach out to touch the umbilical cord still connecting me to my mother, feeling a surge of blood bond warmth, and a strange smile spreads across my face. "So I really am your child." The beautiful woman in the corner stares back in absolute despair. Having just given birth, she has no strength left to resist. Just then, another whelp creeps toward me and launches a sudden attack. Almost on instinct, the beautiful woman rushes over, pulls me into her arms, and takes the blow herself. Blood immediately gushes from her mouth, but I have only just felt the warmth of my mother's embrace, and now I see blood at the corner of her lips. Rage surges through me. In my past life, I was nothing more than a merciless killing machine. The only emotion ever instilled in me was absolute obedience to my mother. So without a moment's hesitation, I raise a rock and bring it down squarely on the whelp. The system chimes again. "Congratulations, goblin whelp slain. Based on the effect of your skill Devour, you have gained 1 point of speed." My swift and ferocious actions stun everyone present. But at this moment, I have only one thought: to kill every single whelp in front of me that dares to defile or harm my mother. After I take out 2 more whelps in quick succession, the remaining whelps finally come to their senses. They begin snarling at me with furious roars, and the chamber descends into chaos. Yet my eyes only flash with a cold, detached killing intent. I bring the rock down again and again, striking the back of each whelp's skull with precise accuracy. The system notification chime rings without pause. By the time I have killed 10 whelps, I have gone through more than a dozen stat upgrades, and I can feel the changes in my body with perfect clarity. Not only have all my attributes grown stronger, I have also acquired powerful new skills. But just then, the old wooden door swings open, flooding the dim room with light. What is going on here? 2 adult goblins step inside and look around. To their shock, the room originally used for breeding has become a morgue, goblin whelp corpses scattered in every direction. They assume it was the work of the breeding slaves, until the 2 surviving whelps in the corner catch their attention. "Stop." The moment I hear that, I immediately move faster, swinging the stone down at one of the whelps. Just as the stone is about to connect with the whelp's head, one of the adult goblins grabs my leg. I immediately leap up to break free, and in midair I clamp another stone between my feet and hurl it directly into the whelp's left eye. Seeing it is still alive, I move in to kill it, and the other adult goblin pounces on me, trying to stop me. I snatch up a handful of sand and fling it in his face. The sand blinds him instantly. Then with a heavy thud, a stone lands squarely on the other adult goblin's eye. I rush back to the whelp. Just as I am about to finish it, the shaman who has been silent all this time finally acts. "How dare you!" He waves his staff and vines burst from the ground, coiling around me and suspending me in the air. Where did these plants come from? Why are they moving? Why are they wrapping around me? A mere whelp dares to act this outrageously. I will punish you for slaughtering your own kind and for blinding my eye. The goblin's club is already swinging down, when the elf who has been cowering in the corner suddenly lunges forward and pulls me into her arms. "Stop! Why are you stopping me? He has slaughtered over a dozen of our kin. I have already informed the marshal. This matter will be decided by him." Hearing the shaman mention marshal, no matter how furious these goblins are, not one of them dares make another move against me. For the marshal is the undisputed leader of this goblin nest. But soon, one of the goblins shifts his gaze to the elf holding me and breaks into a leering grin. "I may not be able to touch you right now, but I can defile your mother right in front of your eyes." The moment I sense someone setting his sights on my mother, the rage inside me ignites once more. I immediately tear free of the vines, close in on the goblin, sidestep his attack in one fluid motion, and spin, wrenching his arm clean out of its socket. The goblin collapses to the ground, writhing in pain. "You cursed little whelp!" The other adult goblin can no longer stand by. He steps forward and raises a stone axe. Just as he brings it down, a low, authoritative voice brings him to a dead stop. "Enough! Marshal, you must stand up for us. He has slaughtered dozens of our kin from the moment it was born. He absolutely cannot be allowed to live. You were beaten to this state by a newborn whelp, and you still have the face to come and complain to me?" The marshal then turns to the shaman. "You speak." The shaman steps forward with a nod and recounts the full sequence of events. After hearing everything, the marshal's gaze falls on me, standing guard in front of the elf. A flicker of genuine shock passes through those sharp eyes, quickly concealed. "You are the one who killed all those whelps?" I hold my position firmly in front of my mother, saying nothing, not allowing myself to relax even slightly. I can sense it. This goblin before me is immensely powerful. He is so powerful that even I, at my peak in my past life, would have had to tread carefully. Seeing that I remain silent, the shaman steps forward. "Marshal, it is perfectly normal for a whelp to be unable to speak. He will not be capable of speech until he has left the infant stage and entered the growth stage. In that case, we will address this matter once he can speak." At that moment, a wave of dizziness suddenly hits my head and I collapse. Fortunately, with my mother's care, I come around quickly. Afterward, my mother and I are taken to a prison. A large number of young women are held captive here, all of them reduced to tools for goblin reproduction. But I notice that whenever a girl is taken away by a goblin, her screams are hysterical and desperate. My mother covers my ears and eyes, while she herself trembles and weeps with fear. Seeing this, I ask with concern, "Mother, what is wrong?" A nearby goblin who overhears my question bursts out laughing. What is wrong? She is terrified of becoming our plaything, of course. As if struck by a terrible memory, my mother loosens her hold on me, her eyes going hollow and vacant. I reach up and gently stroke her head, and her emotions, which were on the verge of breaking, slowly settle. "Mother, please do not cry." The goblin outside the iron door watches this scene with great amusement. The more frightened his prey, the more excited he becomes. "Enjoy this while it lasts. In a few days, your mother will belong to everyone." I watch the goblin leave, my expression dark and cold, and commit his face to memory. Mother is crying because of that one. As long as I kill him, mother will not cry anymore. So when night falls, I take advantage of the goblin's negligence at their posts, activate my skill shadow deception to merge into the shadows, and slip out of the cell with ease. With so many captives having already been taken away, the security here has grown noticeably lax. I quickly evade the goblin patrols, and begin searching for the goblin who humiliated my mother earlier that day. After quietly eliminating several patrolling goblins along the way, I finally find tonight's target, Grell. At this moment, he is trying to assault the woman in front of him. "No! Please, anyone, please save me! It's useless, you could scream your throat raw and no one would come." Grell licks his lips, just about to savor the woman before him, when a flash of blade light cuts across his throat. The lecherous grin freezes on his face. A second later, his head hits the floor. Cress has not yet figured out what happened when she spots me standing in the corner. She assumes I must be a top-tier adventurer from some guild, who took on a mission, used some skill to disguise herself as a goblin, and infiltrated the nest to gather intelligence. I'm about to leave when she calls out to me. "Wait, please, could you take me with you when you leave?" I ignore her and turn to leave, but quickly double back and pull the dagger from her waist. I am very satisfied with this weapon. With dawn approaching, I slip quietly back to the cell, nestle back into my mother's arms, and fall into a deep sleep. Not until the next morning am I jolted awake by the shouting of a group of goblins. I frown and look over. 3 goblins are standing outside the iron door. "Tell us, was it you who killed Grell?" I get up, ready to deal with these irritating goblins outside, but my mother holds me back. One Eye, standing outside the iron door, sees me ignoring him and flies into a rage. "You little brat, how dare you ignore me? You are almost out of the infant stage, and when that happens, your mother will be made to give you more brothers." I find One Eye too noisy. I flick a pebble straight at him. It nearly splits his face open. He erupts with fury. At this point, the shaman steps in. "Enough, the matter has been fully investigated. It was the woman we caught yesterday who did it." One Eye opens his mouth to argue, but a single glare from the shaman shuts him down. With the goblins gone, my mother and I are safe for now. I can see that my mother does not want to be here. I silently vow to slaughter every goblin here and take her away. But before I can act, something unexpected happens. That morning, a goblin arrives at the prison and moves to take my mother away. You know what this means. "Come out. You can come along too, kid, and watch how we play with your mother." His words immediately draw roaring laughter from the other goblins. I do not care about being insulted, but I will absolutely not allow these goblins to humiliate my mother. I am about to charge forward when my mother pulls me back. "Be good, stay here and wait for me. Mother will be back soon." I stare wide-eyed, wanting desperately to go and kill every goblin that dares humiliate her. But One Eye shows not the slightest fear. "Rest assured, I will take very good care of your mother and enjoy every second." An eager goblin raises his hand to grab my mother. Just as his hand is about to reach her, that arm goes flying. A moment later, a red line appears across his throat and he drops dead. "I will not let any of you take my mother. Have you lost your mind? You will regret this." The old goblin mage, seeing this, prepares to unleash fire magic at me. But before his spell is cast, I am already in front of him. I grab his head and drive it into the ground repeatedly, until the familiar system chime sounds. "Congratulations, you have slain the old goblin and acquired his skill, Fireball." At this sight, every goblin freezes in place, but One Eye suddenly puffs up with confidence, defying the marshal's orders, killing fellow goblins. "Get him, take down this arrogant little wretch." One Eye is certain of victory, but I show not the slightest fear, vanishing into the shadows in an instant. The goblins search frantically, but find no trace of me whatsoever. Then a flash of silver cuts through the air, and a head goes sailing upward. After that, every time I appear, another goblin dies. Gradually, the remaining goblins no longer dare to advance. Then the system delivers a special notification. Your strength has reached the maximum limit for this stage. As I continue to cut down one goblin after another, my other attributes soon reach their limits as well, but I pay it no attention and fix my gaze on One Eye, preparing to settle accounts with him once and for all. One Eye breaks into a cold sweat and panic, and shoves the elf in front of him as a shield. "Mother, wait, it will all be over soon." "Child, stop." My mother moves to prevent me from going further. She knows that goblins are considered utterly loathsome by every other race. If she lets me keep killing, there may no longer be any place for me here at all. But I activate shadow deception and appear right in front of One Eye. I am just about to strike, when a dark figure suddenly appears, and actually blocks my dagger. "So you are the strange whelp everyone has been talking about lately. Your strength is truly terrifying. When I was your age, my strength was not even half of yours. In this entire nest, only the marshal as a child could have matched you." One Eye sees Knight rail, and acts as though he has found his savior. He throws himself forward and wails, "Sir Knight, you are finally here. Look at all these bodies. This creature killed every one of them. but before he can finish, I already have my dagger at his throat. At the critical moment, a great silver sword blocks the way. You dare kill someone right in front of me? Knight Mike tightens his grip on the great sword and swings hard. The next instant, a terrifying force slams into me, and I am sent flying, crashing hard into the wall. I am about to charge again when my mother blocks me. Child, stop, you cannot beat him. Knight Mike is a higher order goblin species. He is the foremost goblin beneath the marshal's own direct knights. A higher order species is far beyond what you can handle right now, and killing a higher order goblin is a grave crime. There is no way you can beat me right now. While I am still being reasonable, step away from that elf. Knight Mike has barely finished speaking when I appear behind him, dagger in hand. He deflects it with complete composure. Sensing the growth in my strength, Knight Mike lets a faint smile touch the corner of his mouth, as though a thought has just occurred to him, and continues, "If you do not hurry up and kill me, your mother is going to die." The words are barely out before I unleash a storm of attacks, catching even Knight Mike slightly off guard. You are nothing but a whelp, yet you already possess this level of strength. It is truly terrifying. But before us higher order goblins, you are nothing but ants. Knight Mike swings hard, finds an opening, and drives straight toward my heart. Though I manage to defend in time, I am still sent flying. Almost simultaneously, a flash of blade light leaves my hand and flies toward one eye, who has been watching from the side. His head hits the ground a moment later. Only then does Knight Mike realize he has been tricked. He cannot believe I managed to kill someone right under his nose. At this moment, a terrifying surge of power rises from within me. Under the effect of the special talent Royal Blood, your growth path has undergone a slight deviation. With a thunderous boom, and bolts of lightning coils around me like living serpents, radically altering my form. Not only do I shoot up 40 centimeters in an instant, my physique becomes more defined and upright, the bearing of a fully fledged, higher order goblin. "Kill that little wretch!" One goblin's cry stirs the others, and voices rise against me in condemnation. But Knight Mike does not move. Instead, he raises a hand and silences their outcry. Impressive. This is clearly no ordinary lower order goblin. The words have barely landed when a figure materializes like a phantom out of nowhere. Under the stunned gazes of the surrounding goblins, I send Knight Mike flying through the air, and he crashes hard into the wall. I move in to deliver the killing blow, going straight for his head, but just as my dagger is about to reach its mark, an invisible force suddenly surges forth, followed immediately by a voice of absolute authority. What is going on here? I look up to see a towering figure emerging from the depths of the nest. It is the Marshal himself, the undisputed powerhouse of this nest. "Marshal, you have no idea this vile whelp has killed so many of our kin. He is an absolute monster." The lower order goblins all clamor at once, hurling accusations, hoping to use the Marshal's authority to have me executed. But the Marshal simply waves his hand, signaling them to be silent. Almost at the same moment, I appear behind him. The instant I spot a slight opening in the Marshal's guard, I do not hesitate for a single moment. I strike. My blade slashes toward his throat, but the instant the blade is about to connect, an invisible force suddenly manifests, and the shockwave sends me tumbling backward through the air. Only now do the surrounding goblins snap to their senses. "How dare you try to assassinate the Marshal?" Their faces twist with fury as they close in and surround me, but the Marshal beside them calls a halt to the standoff and instructs the shaman at his side, "Take them away." The shaman leads the way for me, but I keep my guard up, shielding my mother behind me. "Do not worry, we will not lay a hand on you. Please follow me." Accompanied by my mother, I am moved from the 5th underground level to a cozy cave dwelling on the 2nd underground level. Before leaving, the shaman asks for my name. Without thinking, I blurt out, "Caven." "From this point on, you have left the infant stage. From now on, you will go out and contribute to the nest. If you go out on patrol or hunting, you can bring back many good things for your mother." Not a single word of that lecture registers with me, but the moment I hear I can bring good things back for my mother, I am immediately interested. I ask with complete earnestness, "Really? Then I will join." Coaxed along by the shaman, I am assigned to a patrol unit, and the very next day I join the squad and head out. An old goblin points to a pile of worn and battered weapons, and shouts at the goblins before him, "Pick out whatever weapon you like and can use." Everyone rushes forward to pick the larger weapons, while I alone hold only a dagger in one hand, leaving the other completely empty. The old goblin warns me, "The humans out there are very cunning," but I simply reply, "This is enough." Before long, I follow the squad into a stretch of dense undergrowth. One of the goblins picks up a spyglass and fixes his gaze on a group of humans not far away. Before the fight has even started, he has already decided what to do with the spoils. "Remember, kill all the males, keep the females. We will finish them off after we are done with them." Tuck, noticing that I have not said a word, decides to vent some ill will at my expense on behalf of his good brothers, and deliberately brings up in front of me, "After we head back this time, how about we go and have some fun with that elf?" Hearing this, the other goblins break into leering grins. "None of us even know where the elf is." Tuck then deliberately looks my way. "Isn't there an elf in your cave? Shouldn't you invite us to have some fun?" In an instant, every goblin turns to look at me with envious, hungry eyes, just as Tuck is expecting me to get angry and lash out, giving him the excuse he needs to take me down. What he never could have imagined is that I simply raise my blade and bring it down, cutting down a greedy goblin right in front of me. Tuck is secretly delighted. He immediately puts on an air of righteous indignation and points at me. "Killing your own kind is a grave crime. How could you do this?" I reply in a perfectly calm tone, "I am just sending you all down to find other elves." Tuck had not expected me to be so arrogant, completely disregarding him. Before he can even finish his threat, I move and drive a dagger straight into another goblin's heart. At this, he gives the order, and every goblin surges forward in response. But one comes, one dies. Two come, two fall. My movements are agile, my reactions swift, and soon the goblins are dropping one after another. Seeing this, Tuck finally feels fear. He drops to his knees and apologizes repeatedly, insisting that he knows he was wrong. After a long wait with no response from me, he thinks he has escaped with his life and begins plotting to go back and have the marshal settle the score with me. The next second, with a sharp pain, his entire body is cleaved in two. After killing a large number of goblins, I suddenly hear a rapid succession of footsteps approaching. I immediately realize it is a group of adventurers closing in. Before long, the adventurer squad arrives at my location. They all stare in surprise at me standing atop a pile of goblin corpses. What on earth happened here? What is there to be afraid of? It is just a goblin no matter what. Look, those green ears on the goblin corpses are still intact. That is all money. As he says this, the man in the lead lunges at me with a greedy look on his face, intending to deliver a killing blow to me. But the instant the blade touches me, my entire body turns pitch black as ink, melting into the shadows of the forest. Before he can react, I am already behind him, dagger leveled at his throat. Suddenly a voice rings out behind me. Holy ward, fireball! A barrier envelops Kiro, and a wave of fire comes hurtling toward me. I plant my foot on Kiro's back, vault over the fireball, execute a backflip and land cleanly at a distance, putting space between myself and the group. Then I melt back into the shadows once more. The squad begins searching everywhere for any sign of me. The mage is preparing to cast a detection spell to locate me. I directly bring a single slash down on her, and she hits the ground a second later. Immediately after, the priest catches sight of a dark shadow closing in, and I cut her down with a single strike. With her dying breath, she screams to her companions, "Run!" The remaining adventurers had wanted to avenge their two fallen companions, but in the blink of an eye, their leader is already on the ground. The last remaining adventurer, seeing this, bolts desperately toward the edge of the forest, but I do not let him go. A precise slash cuts across his throat. The familiar system voice then sounds, "Congratulations, you have slain a human, constitution enhanced." I look at the bodies on the ground and feel nothing, not a single ripple in my heart. After searching the bodies for spoils, I prepare to take everything back for my mother. I soon arrive back at the goblin nest, seeing me return alone, hauling a large sack. The other goblins give me strange looks, assuming I must have been driven out by my squad mates. At this point, a goblin deliberately walks toward me with a female slave in tow, as if to bump into me. Under normal circumstances, I would have killed him on the spot, but my hands are full, so I ignore the jeering goblins and walk straight past. Just as I am about to enter the nest, Warden Dong calls out to me, "Hey, you there, that goblin?" I originally intend to play dumb and pretend I did not hear, but the guard goblin at the entrance stops me and points it out, and I have no choice but to turn around with a frown. Warden Dong has already jogged up in front of me. "I was calling out to you just now. Why did you not stop?" "You were calling me? I did not hear any goblin call my name." Warden Dong shakes with anger. Just as he is about to raise his staff, he senses a terrifying aura and feels that if he moves so much as an inch, his head will leave his shoulders. On top of that, he faintly senses a suppressive pressure from me, the kind that comes from a higher order goblin. Seeing that Warden Dong has gone completely silent, I lose patience. If there is nothing else, I will be going. "Wait! A portion of those spoils must be handed over." Warden Dong points at the bag on my back. I frown at that and tighten my grip. "This is mine." "What do you mean yours? Spoils belong to the nest, to the squad. How could they possibly belong to a single goblin?" The surrounding goblins all start jeering. Warden Dong draws a deep breath and issues a warning. "You should know, every goblin here must hand over half of whatever they bring back. No exceptions. And another thing, where are the goblins who went out with you? They are all dead." The Warden Dong, who had been so imperious just moments ago, goes rigid at the words. The other goblins all turn to look at me, who is completely unharmed in bewilderment. If the squad had been wiped out by some powerful enemy, that would make sense. But why did only I come back? Warden Dong then ventures cautiously, "How did they die? And how did you survive?" "I am stronger than they were. Would you like to find out for yourself?" Catching the implication behind my words, Warden Dong trembles with rage and immediately starts ranting, "You're too arrogant. I'm going straight to the marshal to have you charged. You must have collaborated with the humans. How else would only you make it back alive?" I have no patience for going back and forth with them and turn to leave, but Warden Dong signals his men to block my way. "You stay right here or come with me to see the marshal." At that, I place my hand on my dagger, ready to act at any moment. After all, I have already let him go twice. This goblin has blocked my path one too many times. I have had enough. I draw the dagger and shout, "Then you can die." Watching me advance step by step, Warden Dong panics and immediately shouts at the lower order goblins behind him, "Take him down." The goblins snap to attention and move to surround me. I draw my dagger and face them head on. Suddenly a sharp voice cuts through the air. "Everyone stop! Leave this to me!" Before Warden Dong can say a word, the shaman cuts him off and turns to me. "All right, you may go." Without asking any questions, I nod. Then I pick up my bundle and leave in good spirits. Back in the dim, damp room on the second underground level, my mother stares at the bloodstained bag in my hands. She is stunned and asks with a slight tremble, "You killed someone?" I nod without hesitation. "Yes, I did. I killed a lot of people. Am I impressive?" As I say this, I hold up the bloodstained dagger, hoping to earn my mother's praise. But to my surprise, she reaches out and knocks my hand away. "Do not touch me." I do not understand what I have done to upset her, but seeing her staring at the bag, I dump all the spoils out in one go and say with a proud grin, "All of this is for you, mother. Take whatever you like. My mother looks at me with a mix of heartache and sorrow until she spots a pocket watch set with a photograph, with the words happy birthday inscribed on it. She breaks down completely. I panic at the sight, rush to her side and wipe her tears. She chokes out the words, "Why did you kill them?" "Because they were trying to kill me." "What? Someone tried to kill you? Are you alright?" Her tone immediately turns anxious. She pulls me close and checks me over carefully. "I am fine, I am very strong." "Mother, do you not want me to kill people? If you tell me not to, I will listen. You tell me to stop, and I will stop. But what if they try to hurt you?" "That is fine, I can run. I am excellent at hide and seek." Looking at me, who understands nothing, my mother realizes for the first time how important it is to teach me. After a moment of silence, she tells me with great seriousness, "I do not want you killing people recklessly, but if someone is trying to kill you, I will not stop you from killing them. I only ask that you give them a chance first." I listen and nod earnestly, and she shows a smile of quiet relief. The next morning, after breakfast, I prepare to head out as usual. Today, I am assigned to a reconnaissance squad again. Unlike the mockery and ridicule of yesterday, this time no one taunts me at all. Through the conversations of the goblins around me, I have already mapped out the full layout of the grand nest in my mind, and I am quietly preparing for the day I will slaughter every goblin here and escape with my mother. Meanwhile, at the outer edge of Whisper Wood, a group of adventurers is cautiously making their way through the dense trees. At that moment, a group of goblins leaps down from the trees. It is my squad. Seeing goblins, the adventurers all draw their weapons and engage them in combat. I simply watch from the trees, waiting until both sides have battered each other to near ruin. And then I strike, finishing off what remains of both humans and goblins alike. From this, I gained 2 new talents, the goblin talent Beast Sense and the human talent Perception. At this moment, I sense that one human on the ground is still alive. I am about to finish him off, when my mother's words suddenly come to mind. I sheathe my dagger and turn back toward the goblin nest. Little do I know, the fact that I have returned alone multiple times has already stirred discontent among the other goblins. At this moment, an armored goblin approaches me slowly. It is Night Rail. "Come with me. The marshal wishes to see you." The nearby goblins immediately begin to whisper among themselves, gleefully assuming that I have finally gone too far and even the marshal wants to deal with me personally. But in response to Night Rail's summons, I merely glance sideways at him and walk away. In my eyes, nothing matters more than going back to see my mother. "How dare you ignore me, ignore the marshal's orders." The furious Night Rail lunges at me, intending to grab me and drag me to the marshal by force, but I do not even turn around. I catch his attack barehanded. This instantly drains the color from his face. He struggles hard, trying to pull his hand free, but I have it in a grip he cannot break. So he roars and swings his other hand at me. I simply raise an eyebrow, then twist my wrist, and slam him into the ground. Every goblin present stares on in stupefied disbelief. The next moment, Night Rail scrambles to his feet and roars at me. Having been humiliated, he no longer cares about the marshal's orders. All he wants now is to tear me apart. But just as he charges again, a deep and commanding voice rings out, "Stand down, both of you." At that voice, Night Rail stops dead in his tracks. I turn to follow the sound and see a powerfully built goblin walking slowly forward. It is the marshal. He carries an invisible, oppressive weight about him that makes every goblin present unable to meet his gaze. The next moment, all the goblins hurriedly bow to the marshal. The marshal walks slowly up to me and looks me over. I tense every muscle, ready to strike at any moment. But the marshal only studies me for a moment, then turns away. "Follow me." With that, the marshal walks off without looking back. Seeing that I have not moved, he pauses and adds, "If you do not want your mother to die, you had best do as I say." Those words hit me like a jolt. I move immediately. The next second, I have my dagger aimed at his heart, but the blade stops there, unable to advance another inch. And this was a perfect opportunity I'd worked so hard to find. Yet the marshal does not even glance at me. He simply catches my dagger between 2 fingers. Not bad, to have grown this much in such a short time. "Do you believe I can kill you? If you think you can, by all means try, but can you?" With that, the marshal flicks his finger. Just that slight force from a finger, and I am sent tumbling and flying backward. After rolling across the ground several times, I finally get up. The marshal's voice reaches me again. "If you do not want anything to happen to your mother, then behave yourself and follow me." This time I do not hesitate. I follow. We make our way to the uppermost level of the grand nest. On the stairway leading up to the castle, I see flowers blooming all around me, and I cannot help but think, if mother were here, she would surely love this place. Out of curiosity, I crouch down and pick one. The marshal beside me furrows his brow at the sight. When he sees me about to pick a second one, he finally speaks up. "That is enough. These things are not mine, someone else planted them." But I act as though I did not hear a word, and continue picking them one after another, until the marshal finally runs out of patience. He knocks me on the head with his fist, and only then do I stop. By now, there is a large bump on my head. "I told you not to pick them." I clutch my head, feeling deeply aggrieved. If I could beat him, I would have done something about it long ago. Seeing how much I like the flowers, he suddenly makes an offer. "If you want to take those flowers, land a hit on me." He crosses his arms and watches me with complete seriousness. "No, you are far too strong for me, so you do no fear after all." I simply do not fight battles I am not confident of winning. Just at that moment, Night Rail, the one who had been making trouble for me, comes running out. The marshal has a sudden idea and points toward Night Rail. Beating him will do just as well. "Marshal, is this really appropriate? Is this not just bullying a child?" Despite what he says, His eyes are filled with excitement. He has long wanted to teach this arrogant little brat a lesson. If the marshal were not here, he would have done it long ago. At this moment, a strange light flickers in the marshal's eyes. A status panel materializes before him, displaying the combined stats of both Night Rail and myself. Unlike Night Rail's normal readings, my stats are strikingly abnormal for a goblin who has only just entered the growth stage. The marshal also recalls that my panel stats rise every single time I go out. How fascinating. For an ordinary goblin to raise their panel stats, it takes prolonged and grueling training. Yet this one has covered in just a few days what others take years to achieve. To probe the true extent of my abilities, the marshal has me, and Night Rail spar against each other. The moment he announces a start, Night Rail charges straight at me. I show not the slightest panic. I step back, evade his slash, then raise my hand and hurl a massive fireball at him. But after the fireball lands squarely on Night Rail's armor, it leaves only a faint scorch mark and has absolutely no effect on Night Rail whatsoever. It's useless. My armor nullifies most magical attacks. With that, he grins and comes at me again with his blade. Though I block the strike with my dagger, the sheer force behind it sends me flying anyway. While I'm still in the air, Night Rail leaps up, aiming to finish me off right then and there. But the next second, a fireball slams him head on. The fireball does him no real harm, but he senses a trace of genuine danger and instantly halts his attack, twisting his body to the side. In doing so, he just barely dodges the dagger that was flying in behind the fireball. At this moment, he feels a chill run through him. If he had not moved when he did, he would have been killed on the spot. That was just me being careless. It will not happen again. But before his words have even landed, he finds that I have vanished. He is instantly alarmed and begins scanning everywhere for any sign of me. The marshal beside them narrows his eyes. He can see it clearly that I am using blind spots in the field of vision to move quickly and thereby conceal my position. This is not a technique that can be mastered overnight, yet I have only just been born. This defies all logic, and the marshal's brow furrows deeply. No matter how he thinks about it, he cannot figure out why. Meanwhile, the fight continues. Night Rail can sense the danger but cannot locate me, and it is pushing him to the edge. He roars in fury, "What kind of skill is hiding? If you have any guts, come out and fight me face to face." The next moment, I appear right behind him. By the time he senses me, it is already too late. Just as the dagger is about to plunge into his body, the marshal intervenes. He appears in front of me in an instant and effortlessly deflects my strike with one hand. "All right, that is enough." Night Rail roars at me in fury. "Just you wait, I will make you pay for this." I ignore his ranting and turn to the marshal. He is not dead yet. Seeing that I genuinely want to kill him, Night Rail flies into a rage and is about to start cursing, when he finds that I have vanished again. The next second, I appear behind him and leave a shallow cut across his neck. Night Rail, feeling utterly humiliated, screams that he will kill me, but the marshal shouts him down and orders him to stand down. Night Rail dares not defy the marshal's word. He withdraws, shooting me a vicious glare as he goes. He does not notice that the blood seeping from his throat seems to carry something mixed within it. Once he is gone, the marshal slowly speaks. "Why did you not stop? Were you trying to kill him? Why should I stop? What is wrong with killing him? Is a match not decided when one side is dead? Is that your way of survival? What is a way of survival? All I know is, if you want to live, you kill everything that threatens you." Hearing words so unfitting for my age, the marshal lets out a long, heavy sigh. He then waves his hand. "You can go. Take those flowers you picked with you. From now on, you are to come here every day. I will teach you combat techniques. Killing is simple, I am already very capable. What you use is assassination technique, not combat technique. And your assassination technique is far too reckless, you abandon all defense entirely. Who on earth taught you this? It is as if your own life means nothing to you." "My mother taught me, but I do not explain that it was the woman I called mother in my past life." The marshal's eyes narrow slightly. "Come every day from now on, no matter what, you will come. But I have no desire to spend time with him. All I want is to get back to my mother." So I stubbornly push back. "What makes you think I will not? Because I am stronger than you. Then let us put that to the test." Half an hour later, I am lying on the ground gasping for breath and I snarl up at the marshal. "I will kill you one day. If you think you can, by all means try. Whenever you are ready, I will be waiting. But until that day comes, get stronger by whatever means necessary." With that, he walks away without a backward glance. I rest on the ground for a moment, and just as I am about to get up, my legs give out and I drop back down. The battle earlier has drained every last bit of my energy, but if I do not get back soon, my mother will worry. Thinking this, I force my body upright once more, only for my legs to give way again, and I fall. But this time, I land on something soft. The scent that reaches me is different from my mother's. When you are hurt, you should rest properly. Theron is really something, being that harsh on a child. In the human world, they would call that child abuse. "Who are you?" "My name is Alara. I am his wife." She then touches the scar on her face. "I am sorry, am I very ugly? Did it frighten you?" "You are not ugly." Something suddenly comes to mind. I struggle out of her arms and get up. "I need to go. My mother is waiting for me." "You cannot. You are still injured. Let me tend to your wounds first, then you can go, okay?" I hesitate for a moment, then decide to trust her. She takes out some medicine from her ring. I sniff it, not poison. For some reason I cannot explain, I feel a strange sense of familiarity toward this woman I have only just met. As Alara treats my wounds, she tells me, "Healing magic works by using life force to accelerate cellular regeneration. Every form of magic carries a cost. Using healing magic in the middle of combat is a last resort. But after a battle, if there is time and the injuries are not severe, it is better to use medicine as a supplement and let your body heal on its own." I nod blankly, only half understanding, which draws a laugh from Alara. By the time I leave the castle, it is already deep into the night. As I pass the entrance to the nest on my way down, Warden Dong suddenly calls out to me, "Your things are still here. If you do not want them, I am throwing them out. Inside is the loot I collected today, so I pick up the bundle and head off to trade with other goblins. Just as I am about to enter the nest, a torn-ear goblin who has been lurking in the shadows, Baya, suddenly runs out, trying to catch up with me, but a patrolling goblin blocks his way. Just where did you come from? But he apparently cannot speak yet, and simply struggles to get past and follow me. I sensed his presence long ago, but I pay him no mind. I go about my business exchanging a few goblin shell coins, and buying some fruit and food to bring back for my mother. I even come across a few cups of instant noodles. Since the goblins have no idea what they are, the price is quite cheap. I take several without hesitation. Paying no attention to the little goblin being held up by the patrol behind me, I head straight to the cave on the second level. I push open the door, catch the familiar scent, and call out, "Mother, I am back." The words had barely left my mouth when my mother comes out. Seeing that I am covered in injuries, she anxiously begins checking me over. So I tell her everything that happened today. Though I do not know what purpose the marshal has in training me, I can at least be certain that he has no intention of harming me. Meanwhile, in the Goblin Nest Tavern, Night Rail is boasting about how he put me in my place, when suddenly he spits up a mouthful of black blood and collapses to the floor, completely unconscious. And the familiar system voice sounds in my ear, "Congratulations, you have defeated Night Rail. Primal instinct acquired. Special evolution point +1. Before long, my exceptional performance over these past few days earns me a generous reward. I no longer have to pick equipment from that rundown weapon rack." Staring at the well-stocked armory before me, I am dazzled by what I see, until my gaze locks onto the black powder sitting in the corner, and my heart leaps. What a rare find. If I can get my hands on enough black powder, would that not be enough to kill the so-called marshal once and for all? So I quietly memorize its location, planning to come back for it later. I continue browsing the other weapons, and shift my attention to a bow and arrows. It looks old, but the bow is firm and resilient, and the arrows are sharp. I am very pleased with it. After all, in assassination, concealment and precision are what matter most. Just then, I hear the distinctive call of a goblin. I turn to look at my new squadmates for the day, and there stands the goblin who had been following me earlier, Baya, staring blankly. Another goblin carrying a staff then comes running over. "Kaven, greetings, I am your squadmate for this mission. My name is Shai." With that, he extends his hand, but I merely glance at it briefly, and shift my gaze to Warden Dong, who is slowly making his way over. "Alright, once you have your weapons, follow me. This time I, a higher order goblin, will be leading you, and I am your squad leader. My name is Warden Dong. You should consider yourselves fortunate. Today I will show you something worthwhile. We are heading to the Goblin Forge." But before he can finish, a massive goblin cuts him off. "I just want to kill things." Warden Dong looks at this hulking brute and lets out a light scoff. "What a shame, killing is not part of this mission. If you refuse to follow orders, you are free to leave." Hearing this, the big goblin does not hesitate and immediately turns to leave, only to be stopped cold by Warden Dong's next words. "If you won't follow my order, then you can leave the Grand Nest. This is the Marshal's wishes." Under normal circumstances, Warden Dong would not bother with lower order goblins like these, but given that these are the Marshal's orders, he has no choice but to comply. Afterward, everyone follows Warden Dong to a mid-sized goblin nest quite different from the Grand Nest. The moment they step inside, a wave of heat hits them head-on. Then they see a goblin actually at work forging metal. This is the Goblin Forge, the facility responsible for weapon production, where nearly all goblin weapons are made. But my gaze drifts to a group of women who have just been brought in as captives. One of them looks very familiar. The big goblin in the squad sees this and falls into thought. Why are we wasting precious resources on something that seems so pointless? Would it not be faster and easier to just raid the adventurers for their weapons? Our Grand Nest already have so many weapons taken from adventurers. Why go to all this trouble to make more? He is very confusion. It's better to spend that energy killing more humans and drive them out of this forest entirely. Warden Dong shakes his head at that. The Marshal says we cannot always depend on others. Only by mastering the technology of weapon making can we goblins truly become an independent people, no longer at the mercy of others. The Marshal wants us to break free from our dependence on adventurer weapons. Besides, the weapons taken from adventurers are mostly crafted to fit humans. They simply do not suit us. The Marshal wants to forge weapons made specifically for our kind. Warden Dong does not contradict Shai's words. After all, Shai was personally named by the Marshal and then selected for this squad. He is clearly no ordinary goblin. Just then, a hearty laugh rings out from within the cave. A powerfully built goblin carrying a massive iron hammer walks slowly toward them. "Hello everyone, I am the chief of the Goblin Forge. My name is Rugnar." Looking at the unusual combination standing before him, Rugnar's mouth curves into a slight smile. "Quite an interesting squad the Marshal has put together. I wonder what he has in mind." He is just about to invite everyone to rest in their rooms when suddenly, a cry from the entrance draws everyone's attention. It is a group of women captured and brought to the nest, bound together, their eyes full of fear and despair. One familiar figure catches my eye. It is Cress, the woman who gave me the dagger. What is she doing here? Just then Baya suddenly cries out and charges at the goblin holding the rope. "Damn it, are you trying to steal our spoils? Have you lost your mind?" The lower order goblin holding the rope delivers a full force kick to Baya's stomach and sends him flying. Seeing Baya struggle back to his feet, the goblin moves to stomp down on his head. Warden Dong steps in. "Stop it. If you injure someone under my charge, where does that leave my face? Next time, do not go throwing yourself at women and trying to grab them outside. These are our spoils. We enjoy them first. That is our right. You can wait until we are done." The lower order goblin laughs loudly and turns to leave, but Baya struggles to his feet and grabs his hand. Seeing him try yet again to interfere, The lower order goblin loses his temper and slaps him hard across the face. But Baya refuses to let go, clinging on with all his strength. Warden Dong is about to try to mediate when the lower order goblin cuts him off with a warning. Get a good look. This one is trying to steal from us. The marshal himself has said, private property is sacred above all else. Even if I kill him right now, it is no loss to you. The other lower order goblins then close in, and Rain punches and kicks down on Baya. By now he is battered beyond recognition, yet he still tries to turn back and comfort the girls. One of the lower order goblins, seeing him refuse to give up, raises a long blade, and just as it is about to fall, Baya actually lets out a faint smile of relief. But the expected slash never comes. A strong hand interposes itself. Little brat, you may be weak, but you have a rare kind of courage. And you, what a fool, raising a blade against your own kind. With that kind of spirit, you would be better off killing more humans. And who are you to lecture me? Brothers, get him. The lower order goblin roars and charges at Shy, but Shy throws a casual punch, and the goblin is sent flying, crashing hard to the ground. The other goblins watching this all swallow hard. You cannot do this. That brat broke the rules. He tried to take what is ours. So what? Just give him one of the women. You have plenty. The lower order goblins want to argue further, but one fierce glare from Shy shuts them all up. In the end, they are given a girl of around 13 or 14 years old. But just as those lower order goblins are about to leave, the apprentice of Rugnar, who has been silent until now, Anvil, speaks up. Can you not count how many of us there are? One woman is nowhere near enough. The lower order goblins dare not argue with Anvil and leave behind 4 more women. Baya, still lying on the ground, cannot stop the tears from falling. Just then a timid voice breaks through his thoughts. The girl who was just handed over has come to his side, trying to comfort him. Baya struggles to stand, but his legs immediately give out, and Shy catches him just in time. Baya lets out a quiet breath of relief. It seems there are good goblins and bad ones after all. Then his gaze falls on the woman standing beside Shy. What? One is not enough. Do you want this one too? Baya stares blankly for a few seconds. Then, without warning, Shy raises his blade and cuts the woman down. Baya's eyes go wide at the sight, filled with horror and fury, but Shy seems entirely unbothered, muttering with a look of disgust. How disgusting. I have no idea why those goblins bother capturing humans. They should just kill them all. Kill every last human who dares set foot in goblin territory. Would you not agree? As he says this, Shy reaches out to put a hand on Baya's shoulder, only to have it shaken off. Baya lets out a furious roar at him. So you did want her? You should have said so earlier. Not a big deal either way. Realizing there is no reasoning with him, Baya takes the girl who has gone into a daze by the hand and walks into his own room. On the other side, Anvil points to a room and says to me, "This is your room." I walk in to find a woman in a long dress standing in the room, trembling, head lowered. I give her a brief, indifferent glance, and then walk to the door and open it. The woman stares in complete bewilderment. Does this mean she can escape? Thinking this, Vera quietly slips away from the doorway and makes her way toward the entrance of the nest. She is lucky along the way and doesn't encounter any goblins. But just then, a wretched cry reaches her from not far away. It is one of her companions, and it's also one of the women taken away by those lower order goblins. Vera peers through cautiously and freezes on the spot. Inside the room lie several bodies, the sight too brutal to describe. The only one still alive is her close friend Helen, being surrounded and assaulted by several goblins. At that moment, Helen seems to spot something. She stares wide-eyed at the doorway and tries to scream, but her mouth is gagged and not a sound gets out. But the movement catches the goblin's attention. The moment Vera sees his eyes turned toward her, she runs away, but a pair of hands suddenly shoots out from behind her and clamps around her throat. She is lifted up in an instant. Though goblins are by nature wild and unrestrained, I am nothing like them in that regard. After deliberately letting the woman assigned to serve me walk free, I slowly open my eyes and speak to the empty room. Come out. The next second, Cress steps out from the corner with a grin. I knew I could not fool you. To be honest with you, I am here to sabotage this place. Do you happen to have any intelligence or maps of this nest? Of course. Wonderful. If you are willing to help, I will split my mission reward with you half and half. I have been inside the goblin nest since birth, and in my past life I was nothing but an assassin carrying out orders for my mother. I have no idea what a mission reward even is. Seeing me frown in confusion, Cress mistakes it for dissatisfaction with the split. How about 60-40? You get 60, I get 40. 70-30, that is my limit. 80-20, I genuinely cannot go any lower. Cress looks close to tears. Little does she know that I have not understood a single word of what she is saying. The moment I open my mouth, Cress assumes I have agreed and immediately shares her mission details with me. My mission is to obtain a map of this place. If I can also gather detailed intelligence on its defenses and garrison strength, even better. The mission reward is 1,000 gold coins. In this world, 3 gold coins is already a full month's income for an ordinary person, and all I have to do is draw a map to earn a reward this generous. What a deal! Of course, the difficulty of the task matches the reward. As everyone knows, goblins are creatures that live for fighting, but I have no idea what use 1,000 gold coins would be to me. I think a real weapon feels far more practical. Thinking this, my eyes drift to the ring on Cress's hand. I can feel a faint, mysterious energy emanating from it, similar to the mysterious force within my own body. Noticing my gaze, Cress immediately closes her hand around the ring. Absolutely not. This is a very precious storage ring. It can hold up to 3 cubic meters of items. On the outside market, it is worth thousands of gold coins. I stare at her in silence, my gaze alone putting enormous pressure on Cress. She is terrified that if I get angry, I will simply kill her. In the end, she has no choice but to take it off and hand it over. I take the ring and examine it curiously. furiously. As I channel magic into it, the ring allows items to be stored and retrieved at will. I am thoroughly absorbed in playing with it. Just then, there is a knock at the door. Cress and I exchange a glance, and she immediately activates her skill, vanishing from sight. Kaven, are you asleep? I grip my dagger and open the door. Standing outside are Anvil and Vera. Anvil shoves Vera forward. I caught your slave and brought her back. I state directly that I have no slave. Anvil narrows his eyes. So you really did drive her out? I never expected to find a goblin with no interest in women. Just as I am about to close the door, I feel a hand grab my wrist. I look up to see Vera's face streaked with tears. No, please, save me. She weeps. She knows full well what awaits her if Anvil takes her back. In the face of her plea, I pull my hand free without reaction. Seeing this, she cries out desperately, I will do anything you ask, anything. I refuse without hesitation, no. Vera loses all will to survive. As she is taken away, she murmurs through her tears. If only I had never taken that elf's mission. The word elf catches my attention. I hesitate for a second, then quickly say to Anvil, wait, I will take her. Before Anvil can even react, I pull Vera into the room. Anvil opens his mouth to say something, then shakes his head helplessly and turns to leave. Vera, having narrowly escaped her fate, stares at me in complete bewilderment, entirely unable to comprehend why I suddenly changed my mind. Seeing me staring at her, she slowly begins to remove her clothes. It is my first time, so please be gentle. I stare at her in confusion. I only brought her in because she mentioned an elf, and my mother happens to be one. Just as Vera is down to her undergarments, Cress, hiding in the shadows, can no longer hold herself back. She covers her eyes, flushed with embarrassment, and kindly warns, hold on, if you two are going to do that, at least wait until I leave. With that, Cress activates her concealment skill and vanishes. I then slowly speak up. You mentioned earlier that you took a mission from an elf. What was that about? Vera's eyes go wide with realization. She understands now that this was why I kept her. She quickly tells me everything. The reason I entered this forest was a mission posted by a party made up entirely of elves. The objective was to locate an elf by the name of Venora. You are certain that is the name? Vera nods vigorously. I give her a brief look. You can stay here, no goblin should come in. With that, I leave the room, thinking, are those elves looking for Mother? Are they her companions? If I tell her, she will surely be overjoyed. The moment I step out of the cave, I run into the lower order goblins who clashed with Baya earlier in the day. Bryn, the one leading them, spots me and speaks first. Well, our honored guest, going out so late, where are you headed? He walks toward me with a smile and reaches out to clap me on the shoulder, which I sidestep. His brow furrows at that, he feels slighted. His fists tighten, but he forces the anger down and extends an invitation. Where are you going? We are planning to go hunting outside. Do you want to come along? I am really strong, you know. As he says this, the shadow beneath him begins to distort, and then it rises up from the ground and stands upright. He shows it off with a smug grin. Pretty impressive, right? My shadow can lurk inside other shadows. Little does he know, his showing off is about to cost him his life. I glance at Bryn, then at the lower order goblins behind him, and make my assessment. Killing them all would be a waste of time. So I ignore Bryn entirely and walk away. Bryn glares at my back, then scrambles to catch up in an almost fawning manner. Wait up, why not come together? There are quite a few adventurers out there right now. I pay no attention to this either, and simply let them follow. After all, they can always serve as a human shield. Bryn chatters incessantly the entire way. Only once we are a good distance from the nest does he finally reveal his true purpose. Seeing that the timing and location are right, Bryn exchanges a look with the lower order goblins beside him, and seizes the moment. Let this little brat who dared take our women learn what we are made of. The next second, the goblins around me erupt and lunge at me. What they do not know is that I've been watching their every move the whole way. In a single instant, I drop the goblins in front of me, and close in on Bryn. Bryn's face drains of color. He had not expected me to be this ferocious. He misjudged, but he still has a card to play. You are not nearly ready to kill me. Bryn's shadow, which had secretly embedded itself in mine, suddenly materializes behind me, a pitch-black blade already leveled at my throat. At this range, even a higher-order goblin in the growth stage could not evade it. But the instant the blade falls, my body turns pitch black as ink, dissolving into shadow, and the blade passes straight through my shadow. Bryn is stunned, but wastes no time. He immediately summons his shadow to materialize in front of him as a shield. But it is too late. I step right past his shadow and appear in front of him, dagger at his throat. A few seconds later, the system chimes, "Congratulations, you have slain Bryn. Skill shadow split acquired. Strength plus 1 point." With Bryn's death, the other goblins finally snap to their senses. Bach cannot believe I killed Bryn, and in an instant at that, they resort to the offensive first. "You are despicable. You attacked your own kind, everyone charge." I faced the charging goblins without so much as a change in expression. The skill is already mine. I have no reason to keep playing with them. Just then, voices of adventurers ring out from nearby. "Goblins here!" I decide to leave at once. The next day, I head back into the forest with a group of lower-order goblins for another hunt. Suddenly, I spot a party of adventurers charging toward us. At the sight of them, I immediately leave the area. The lower-order goblins next to me curse me as a coward, calling me pathetic for running the moment I see humans. Then they charge at the humans, and a fierce battle breaks out between the two sides. The goblins hold out stubbornly, using their numerical advantage to keep fighting. The archer Iran sees me flee and immediately gives chase. Seeing that she is alone and pursuing me, I deliberately slow down and lead her deep into the dense forest. "Come out, stay still and let me kill you. You want to kill me?" I appear suddenly behind her and she startles. She stares at me in shock. This goblin can speak the human tongue. Is it a higher order species? But it does not carry the aura of a higher order species. Is it some kind of special individual? Composing herself, Erin answers with forced calm, "Of course, slaying monsters is what we adventurers do." I say nothing and simply hold her gaze. It unnerves her enough that she takes an involuntary step back. But then, unexpectedly I speak. I see no killing intent in your eyes, so I will not kill you. With that I turn and walk away, leaving Aran standing there in a daze. I return to the main goblin group. By now most of the adventurers and lower order goblins are wounded and on the ground. Only a warrior named Dale wielding a great sword and one goblin are still standing. The goblin lets out a roar, arcs of lightning crackling across its palm. But just as Dale and the goblin are both about to strike, an arrow splits the air and finds the goblin's heart with perfect precision. Dale is visibly stunned, and the familiar system voice already sounds in my ear. Congratulations, you have slain the goblin and acquired its skill, Lightning Strike. Just as I stow my bow and prepare to leave, a furious shout erupts from behind me. Found you! A sharp blade cuts through the air toward me. I dodge in a flash, leap down from the tree and quickly reposition, but I immediately sense a powerful killing intent locking onto me. My eyes sharpen, and I move, and collide head-on with the charging figure. Dale is sent flying backward by my strike, slamming hard into a tree trunk. He stares at me in disbelief, and realizes there is something genuinely different about me. Though I have the distinctive pointed ears, my face is strikingly similar to a human's. After witnessing the extraordinary power I have shown, the rest of his party calls out for him to run, but Dale struggles to his feet, his eyes steady and resolute. I will not abandon my teammates. With that he raises his sword and charges at me again. I simply raise my hand slowly and catch his blade between my fingers with ease. How is this possible? I see killing intent in his eyes, which means there is no reason to hold back. So I raise my foot and drive it into his abdomen, sending him flying instantly. He spits out a mouthful of blood and collapses completely. I watch him lying there barely alive and feel the urge to finish him rising inside me, but my mother's words suddenly echo through my mind. Just then Dale suddenly shouts, "You wicked goblins, just you wait. The Adventurers Guild has already taken notice of you. We will wipe every last one of you out." At those words, the dagger in my hand gives the faintest tremor. I look up at Dale and ask, "You intend to kill all the goblins?" "That is right, and we will free every innocent captive being held here. In that case, you had best work hard at it. If you fail to do what you just said, I will come back and kill you." With that, I sheathe my dagger and turn to leave. Dale stares after me, mouth agape. He never expected to be spared at the very brink of death. He shouts at my retreating figure in bewilderment, "What exactly are you trying to do? Do you pity me? I am telling you, I will kill every last one of you damned goblins. You had all better be careful. There is someone among us goblins who is very powerful." With that, I vanish completely from sight. Dale stands rooted to the spot, staring at where I disappeared, lost in thought. Something is off about that goblin. Was it provoking us? Damn it! He seethes with indignation, never imagining that one day he would be spared by a lower order goblin. It is an utter humiliation for him. He swears he will have his revenge. Meanwhile, on my way back to the nest, I come across a dying goblin knight. I immediately sense something is wrong. I have fought goblin knights before and I was no match for one. So what kind of enemy could have brought one to this state? I scan the surroundings. There are no signs of a battle anywhere, which means the goblin knight fled here from somewhere else. I am just about to leave when the goblin knight on the ground suddenly grabs my ankle. "They are all dead. Please, you must bring this to the marshal." I take the crystal clutched in the goblin's hand with curiosity. At that very moment, an arrow splits the air toward me. Fortunately, I am agile enough to leap clear in time. Not far away, Elfman watches this and furrows his brow. That goblin actually got away, and that one carries a strangely familiar presence. I sprint the whole way back and finally reach the goblin nest. Just as I am about to enter, something stirs in me and I glance back at the dark forest. I frown involuntarily. Was that my imagination? I think no more of it and head into the grand nest. But the moment I reach the entrance to the second underground level, a massive figure blocks my path. "Move!" The marshal raises an eyebrow. "It seems you have something you have not given me." I frown slightly, as if something clicks, then reach into my pocket, pull out the crystal and hand it to him. He takes the vision crystal and immediately channels magic into it. The next moment, a faint ripple spreads through the surrounding space, and a blue screen-like projection materializes. On it appears a valley, with a small structure at its center. Inside is an altar built from piled bones, surrounded by a magic circle drawn in flowing blood. At the sight of this, the marshal shows a rare expression of disgust. I did not expect the filth from the Gate of Verity to appear here as well. The Gate of Verity is a cult, where members claim to pursue truth while sacrificing souls to the evil god in exchange for power. Their sacrificial slaughter is not limited to humans. Anything with blood and bones becomes a target. That's why every major race despises them. I nod, making clear I have no particular interest in any of this, and am just turning to leave when the marshal stops me. "Did I say you could go? Have I not already told you you are to come to me every day from now on? Why should I listen to you? I am teaching you combat techniques for your own benefit. I said I do not need you to teach me." Faced with my stubbornness, the marshal looks thoroughly exasperated. Then, recalling something the shaman said, he abruptly changes his approach. "If you can injure me, I'll give you these." He opens his hand to reveal a few seeds, which he had originally intended to bring to Alara. In virtually the same instant, I vanish from where I stood. The marshal lets out an admiring smile, inwardly marveling at my speed. The next second, the seeds that were in his hand are already gone, replaced by a faint cut across his palm. The wound is shallow, but it carries a strange quality, as though some force is quietly stirring within it. The marshal looks down at the mark on his hand, and a smile tugs at the corner of his mouth, growing again, and that talent truly worthy of the one chosen by the king. He murmurs to himself, a firm resolve burning in his eyes. But then, without warning, he spits up blood. His face turns deathly pale pale in an instant and his body sways. He wipes the blood from the corner of his mouth, a trace of cold resolve flashing through his eyes. He knows he cannot fall here, there are still far more important things he must do. Meanwhile, on my end, I have apparently succeeded in taking the seeds he held, but not long after leaving, I spit up a mouthful of blood and slump weakly against the wall. I open my palm and look at the 3 faintly glowing seeds, and a faint smile crosses my face. Mother, you are going to be so happy. After a brief rest, I get ready to head back to the nest. But the moment I stand, my body pitches forward against my will, and I fall into a gentle embrace. I look up. It is Alara again. Oh, what has happened to you now? Alara gently steadies me. I struggle to get up, but she holds me firmly in place, her ample figure nearly suffocating me in the process. Fortunately, she notices in time and props me up against the wall to rest, then asks with concern, "Are you all right?" I manage a weak smile. "I am fine. Just a bit dizzy." Satisfied that I am not seriously hurt, Alara lets out a breath of relief. She deftly takes out bandages and medicine and begins to treat my wounds. "You are very capable," I say suddenly. Alara's hands pause, and she quickly asks, "Why do you say that? I used to be capable, but not so much anymore." "Is that so? You are more capable than he is." "Am I imagining things? What, are you trying to get me to kill him?" "No, I will kill him myself with my own hands." Hearing me say I intend to kill Theron, a flash of sorrow crosses Alara's eyes. She hesitates for a moment, then asks, "Do you hate him very much?" "What is hate? I do not know." "Then why do you want to kill him?" I shake my head again just as blankly as before. "If you want to kill him, you will need to work much harder. He is very powerful, at least far stronger than I am." Suddenly, several books slip out from her sleeve. I look down at the titles: How to Be a Good Mother, How to Become a Qualified. I get halfway through reading the title before Alara snatches them back. Her face flushes red and she deliberately avoids my gaze. "Do you have children?" "I do not have children." "Then why are you reading books like that?" "I want to become a qualified mother." As she says this, Alara finally meets my gaze directly. Then, with complete seriousness, she asks, "Would you be willing to be my child, so that I might have the chance to become a qualified mother?" "I cannot. I already have my own mother. If you want a child, you should have one of your own." Rejected, Alara lowers her head in dejection. She seems to be carrying something she cannot bring herself to say. I check my recovered body, immediately stand up, bounce on my feet a couple of times, all good. Then I take my leave of Alara. "Then I will be going." Alara watches me with gentle eyes and nods. Watching my retreating figure, something complicated stirs in her eyes. Her hand drifts involuntarily to her abdomen, and her expression darkens. "I will never forgive those who took from me the chance to become a mother." On my end, I return to the nest and have barely opened the door when a figure launches itself at me. I react instantly. Just as I am about to raise my dagger, the familiar scent makes me drop my guard in an instant. "Kaven, you are finally back. Let me take a look at you. You are hurt? What happened?" I recount the sparring session with the marshal. This only reinforces Venora's belief that the marshal is grooming her child as a future successor. "This is a good thing for you. After all, in this world, strength is everything." I suddenly remember the gift I prepared for Mother, and pull a few seeds from my pocket and hand them to her. "Are these star lotus seeds?" Mother is surprised. "How did you get your hands on seeds this rare?" But I know nothing about this flower, and just look at her with a puzzled expression. "The star lotus is a beautiful flower. Legend says it carries traces of fortune within its petals. It is a flower blessed by the goddess of luck. Would you like to see it bloom?" "Yes, but growing them takes a long time." "It will not take long at all, just leave it to the sprites." Venora presses the seeds into the soil, then closes her eyes and places her hands over her chest as though in prayer. "Sprites, please hear my request. Let the life sleeping beneath the soil awaken and grow." As her chant fades, the dim room suddenly brightens, and specks of starlight converge from every direction, swirling around her. Before long, the seeds just pressed into the earth begin to sprout, putting out tender green leaves. Then one by one, tiny buds emerge from among the leaves. Finally, through the sprite's efforts, beautiful star lotus flowers bloom one after another, filling the dim cave with their radiance. At the sight of this miracle, I cry out in delight. "Well, are they beautiful?" "They are. Mother, you are amazing. So Kaven, would you like to learn?" "Yes, but can I actually learn it?" "You carry my bloodline, of course you can, Kaven. What I will teach you is not magic, it is elven arts, a special technique that only certain elves can use." Venora watches the specks of starlight beginning to drift around me, and covers her mouth in surprise. She never expected the sprites to take to her child like this, even though he is a goblin. I exclaim excitedly, "I'm just like Mother now." Venora strokes my head, her expression warm with pride. "My child, you truly has a gift." I lose myself in the long mist warmth of my mother's gentle touch, a sense of peace and happiness rising inside me that I cannot put into words. But the quiet does not last long. A strange presence seeps in without warning. I detect the change immediately, and in a flash I draw the blade at my waist and hurl it into the darkened corner. A dark figure darts out from the shadows. "Oh my, is this how you welcome guests?" As the voice sounds, an alluring silhouette steps slowly out of the darkness. She is dressed in a black gown that hugs her slender waist, long dark hair falling loose around her, a thin veil across her face, leaving only her bewitching eyes exposed, eyes that seem to see through everything. "You are of the demon race?" What a surprise, a pure-blooded elf in a place like this. I've seen it all, but a pure-blooded elf getting captured? That's a first. If those self-important elven nobles were to find out, I wonder what they would have to say. "What are you doing here?" Before Malika can answer, I have already flashed to her back. Just as I bring my dagger down, her long scythe is already there to block it. Then a terrifying force slams through the weapon and sends me flying. She is clearly no opponent I can handle. Under normal circumstances, I would flee without hesitation. But right now my mother is behind me, and I must protect her. So I step forward. Impressive. You cannot beat me, yet you still advance. Let me test what you are made of. Malika swings her scythe down at me. The force behind the blow is enough to kill me. Suddenly Venora cries out, "Do not harm my child." The next second, faint points of light appear around her body. Countless green vines burst from the ground as though alive, spreading rapidly and coiling tight around Malika's hands and feet. Malika sees this and swings her scythe, severing the vines with ease. But the vines do not die. They rapidly repair themselves at the cuts and grow even thicker than before. Malika's expression turns serious at the sight. Elven arts? But so what? With a thunderous boom, an enormous surge of magic erupts from within Malika. With a single swing of her scythe, the thick vines are torn apart. But I have already grabbed my mother and run. "Let go of me, you will be caught if you carry me." "No. If we go together." Facing the succubus Malika, who has suddenly appeared before us. I shield my mother behind me, eyes filled with wariness. But Malika only laughs mockingly. "You are quite a strange goblin. Goblins do not have a concept of mothers, so why are you protecting this so-called mother of yours?" She gives me a meaningful smile and deliberately flutters her eyes at me in full view of my mother. But I am not charmed. I slowly set my mother down and take a fighting stance. I close in on Malika without a sound and strike for her throat. But a scythe materializes from nowhere and blocks it. The shockwave sends me flying, and I am about to slam into the hard wall, when a melodious song suddenly sounds. Something miraculous happens. A giant dandelion sprouts from the ground, catches me, and gently sets me down. "It is useless. Is this truly the best you can do?" Malika laughs with smug satisfaction. But in the moment of her complacency, a gush of blood suddenly erupts from her. A pitch-black shadow is standing behind her, holding my dropped dagger. At some point it had driven the blade clean through her body. No trace of magic or no incantation. "Is this a skill? Interesting. But you have made me angry," Malika murmurs to herself, and then an overwhelming surge of magic unlike anything before erupts violently from within her. Her body begins to undergo a strange transformation. The wound closes at a visible rate. She slowly raises her hand and an even more terrifying force begins to gather in her palm. Before absolute power, all technique and cunning are meaningless, so die. Malika hurls a fireball at me. I have no time to escape. My mother pulls me tightly into her arms and summons countless vines from the ground to form a protective barrier around us. But against the fireball, the vines are like moths to a flame. They ignite almost instantly. Dead just like that? How dull. Wait, something is wrong. Malika senses something amiss. Row upon row of goblin knights have placed themselves between Malika and me, using their own bodies to absorb the terrifying magical assault. At their head is Nightmok. "Before you come to kill our goblin, did you think to ask us first? You think you can stop me? We will not only stop you, we will kill you." The goblins fix their eyes on Malika with savage intent. "With what you have, you think that is possible?" She slowly raises her hand and a powerful surge of magic erupts from her. "Goddess of war and flame, hear the plea of your faithful servant. Send down your fire and fury and reduce your enemies to ash." The words have barely left her lips when balls of fire materialize behind Malika and streak toward the goblin knights like meteors. But faced with the blazing fireballs, the goblin knights laugh out loud and advance instead of retreating. They charge straight into the flames without flinching. The fireballs hit them and have no effect at all. Magic is useless against us. The goblin knight's words cut short. A red line appears across his throat and he crumples to the ground. Malika smiles and swings her black scythe, reaping goblin after goblin. "So this is all you amount to?" Watching two of their brothers fall in an instant, the goblin knight's expressions twist with fury, rage building inside them. "Kill her!" Her bewitching laughter echoes through the goblin nest. Wave after wave of goblin knights surge forward bravely, only to be cut down by Malika with effortless ease. She advances toward me, scythe in hand. To protect me, the goblins roar and throw themselves forward, blocking her path. In this moment, they face death without fear. Even Venora, who has always despised goblins, is stunned. She never imagined that these goblins would give their lives to protect her child. But I remain unmoved and keep pulling at her. "Mother, we need to go now. Caven, they are all protecting you and giving their lives for it." "Are they? They are protecting me, but why? Have I done or said anything that would make them protect me? In my past life, I was a cold-blooded killer. The concept of protection means nothing to me. Venora knows that allowing me to remain this cold-blooded is not acceptable. In that case, I cannot survive in this world alone. I must have companions, friends, and perhaps even someone to love." Seeing that mother still has not moved, I simply scoop her up in my arms. These goblin knights truly do not fear death. On her end, Malika finds it increasingly curious that these goblins are willing to keep dying for a lower-order goblin, and her curiosity about my identity only deepens, her steps quickening involuntarily. Faced with the endless stream of goblins, she simply swings her scythe in a wide arc and unleashes Reaper's Waltz. A pitch-black circular blade aura expands outward in every direction from Malika as its center. Anything the dark light touches is instantly severed, torn apart, and killed. I sense the danger immediately and pull my mother down to the ground, narrowly avoiding the sweep. But when I look back, every goblin knight who had been standing behind us has fallen. Malika steps over the goblin corpses and walks slowly toward me. "Well then, my little goblin, are you ready?" I activate Shadow Deception and appear in front of Malika in an instant. Despite her fast reflexes, my dagger still catches her face. "You little brat, do you not know that a woman's face is her second life?" Malika flies into a rage and swings her scythe at me. I move to dodge but find I cannot move my feet. I look down. The blood on the ground has come alive somehow, coiling around my feet. It is no use. You cannot escape. Just as I think I am finished, a dark figure suddenly appears in front of me and takes the killing blow. It is Nightmoke. I cannot understand why. Blood pours from Nightmoke's mouth, but even so he remains standing in front of me and forces out one final word, "Go." The word barely leaves his lips before my mother scoops up my frozen, dazed self and moves quickly away. Once I am far enough away, Nightmoke surges with a final burst of life. He roars, his muscles swelling to their limit. "Come on, I will not let you pass." How amusing, but can you really do it? I have no time to play with you. The words have barely fallen before the black scythe and his sword clash together. The shockwave that erupts sweeps across the entire area. Mother, why did he take that blow for me? Because he was protecting you. Why would he protect me? He tried to capture you before and tried to kill me, and I nearly killed him. Whether human, goblin, or elf, all living things are capable of change. This is something you should think on yourself. Why did he protect you? Does he have a purpose? Does it affect you in any way? I hope that one day Caven will be able to act on his own judgment and save whoever he wishes to save. Whether human, goblin, or elf, it does not matter. I am genuinely confused. In my mind there is killing but no concept of saving. As for protecting Mother, that is purely instinct. In the end, I can only nod in a daze, but then Mother hugs me and adds, "Caven, remember, no matter what you do, your own life comes first above everything else. Anything that threatens your life, you are allowed to disregard it." Understood. The word has barely left my mouth when a powerful shockwave crashes into us. Mother holds me tight and dodges quickly, but she herself slams into the wall and loses consciousness. Seeing my mother collapsed on the ground, I reach out toward her with trembling hands. "No. Mother, are you all right?" With no response from her, a terrible thought takes hold in my mind. A nameless fury surges up from within me, and Malika, still completely unaware of what she has just unleashed, calls out, "Did you really think you could run away? That foolish elf, did she actually consider herself a goblin's mother? Sacrificing herself to protect a goblin of all things? Now I have truly seen everything." She covers her mouth, doubled over with laughter. The moment the words land, I charge, dagger meets scythe, and the system immediately sounds, "Limit break activated. Your attributes will be significantly enhanced for a short period." I stare at the one who hurt my mother, teeth clenched in fury. There is only one voice in my mind. I will kill her. I will never forgive this. Malika is caught off guard by my sudden surge in power. A goblin in the growth stage, with this level of strength and speed, it is nothing short of a miracle. But she lets out a light laugh, applies a fraction of her strength, and a crushing force transfers through her scythe. I am sent flying in an instant. Your strength is still far too weak for me. Almost simultaneously, I adjust my posture, and in the blink of an eye, I vanish from Malika's sight. I reappear in her blind spot behind her, dagger aimed directly at her head. Malika senses it and quickly raises her scythe to block, only to find I have vanished again. Her brow furrows. She had not expected my concealment technique to be this formidable. She quickly runs out of patience and snaps, "Damn brat, that's enough." Malika gets angry and magic erupts from within her. She tries to use the expanding aura to sense my location, but it is no use. She is astonished that someone as weak as me can remain calm while she is in a state of fury, and continue to maneuver against her with such sophisticated technique. It is really terrifying. The thought sends a bead of cold sweat down her forehead. She raises her hand and conjures a sphere of light, flooding the entire nest with brightness in an attempt to locate me. On the other side, the goblins, urged forward by Nightmoke, have just arrived at the nest when they are met by the blinding light ahead. They all stop in their tracks and stare at the scene before them in disbelief. I am weaving through the dark shadowed corners of the nest, moving at a speed beyond their comprehension, striking at every blind spot Malika has. This is absolutely incredible. At this sight, every goblin present stops underestimating the small lower order goblin before them, and what they feel now is admiration, respect, and awe. By now, Malika has been driven into a desperate situation. Her body is covered in countless small cuts, but the wounds themselves are the lesser problem. The real trouble is the mysterious poison steadily seeping into her body. Even detoxification magic has no effect on it. If this continues, she will be worn down to death. In that moment, Malika goes berserk. "Fine. If I cannot find you, I will bring everything down." It is clear she intends to take everyone with her. She releases a fireball many times larger than anything before, poised to obliterate the entire nest. I sense something is wrong, and scramble to find an opening in Malika's guard, to interrupt the spell. At the critical moment, a commanding voice rings out. "When did a bug start showing up in my territory?" The marshal narrows his eyes and raises an eyebrow, then shouts over at the distant goblin knights, "It is just a clone, and you have been fighting it this long and lost this many goblins." At the marshal's words, the goblin knights are struck with shock. They cannot believe it. The woman who slaughtered over 100 of their kin was only a clone? Then just how powerful is her true body? The goblin knights hang their heads in shame. That cannot be right. A clone cannot maintain itself for this long, and a clone absolutely cannot bleed. Do not use your limited understanding to deny what you cannot comprehend. But I am surprised a goblin figured it out. You know quite a lot. It seems you have been to the human world? You talk a lot for a clone. Are you trying to buy yourself some time before you die? Well, it is true. When a clone dies, the true body suffers severe consequences as well. Damn it, you know far too much, but even as a clone, killing all of you is more than within my reach. The moment the words are out, Malika charges at the marshal with her black scythe. The marshal takes one look at this and a flicker of contempt crosses his eyes. He does not move a step, simply raises one enormous palm, and stops her attack with the solidity of a mountain. How is this possible? This terrifying strength, is this what a goblin is? Is that all? How dare you look down on me? Malika erupts with fury, magic exploding from every part of her. Her scythe begins to radiate waves of dark energy, which take the form of several black serpents and coil upward around the marshal's arm. The marshal lets out a cold snort, and a deafening boom follows. Malika's body is sent crashing away. She spits blood, clearly gravely wounded. She collapses to the ground. Knowing she is too close to death to escape, she begins condensing all her remaining magic inside her body, compressing it, preparing to release it. What a lunatic. The marshal is just about to act when I appear in front of Malika. She has just opened her mouth to say something, and my dagger silences her permanently. Congratulations, you have slain a demon parallel entity. You have acquired one of its talents, Bloodbind. Consumed by bloodlust, I do not stop there. I continue to take out my fury on Malika's body, until the marshal beside me can no longer watch and grabs my hand. Enough. That elf is not dead yet. If you keep this up, I cannot make any guarantees. At those words, I immediately come back to my senses. I run to my mother and shake her arm. Mother, wake up. Kaven has already killed that person. Then I suddenly remember the magic my mother used to heal me. I begin to imitate what she did, calling out to the sprites that appeared then. Specks of starlight emerge and gather around me. The surrounding goblins are all dumbstruck, for even among elves, those capable of using elven arts are a small minority, and yet I am a goblin. Even the marshal goes momentarily still. Just as I am about to perform the elven arts, he exchanges a silent glance, and immediately has Nightmock lead the other goblins away. As the elven art activates, a soft white light suddenly illuminates the surroundings, and beneath that white light, vivid flowers bloom one after another. Even the marshal, touched by the light, feels the hidden injuries within his body beginning to show signs of recovery. Kaven, how many surprises do you intend to give me? Then, in the white light, a tiny figure appears, palm-size, with pointed ears, long hair, and a pair of small wings on its back. Insignificant beings come and pay reverence to the great elemental spirit, the Pillar of Light, one of the original 7 pillars, His Excellency Yaris Aso. But her proud declaration receives no response. Seeing that mother has not woken, I hang my head in disappointment. Hey, you summoned me and you are ignoring me? Who are you? You called for me and you are asking who I am. If it were not for that pleasant scent you carry, I would not bother with you at all. Then can you save my mother? Fine, let me take a look. The soft-hearted spirit places her hand on Venora's forehead, and a faint glow spreads from her body. In the span of a moment, Yaros assesses the situation. Your mother is fine, she only needs to sleep it off. Do not call me for something this trivial in the future. I am very busy. Every day I have to groom my wings, fix my hair, bathe, listen to the prayers of elves. Hearing that mother is fine, I feel the tension leave me at once. Without paying any further attention to the chattering spirit, I pick up my mother and turn to leave. By the time Yaros notices, I am already far away. How infuriating! What does this creature take me for? Summoned me and then just ignored me, utterly outrageous. Your Excellency, elemental spirit of light. Yaros turns at the sound of the voice. Upon seeing it is the marshal. Those previously mischievous eyes instantly turn ice cold. You know who I am? For a goblin, you know quite a great deal. Several days later, I am brought to the Goblin Forge along with a group of goblin knights. I stand in the group with a grim expression, following the goblins deeper into the forge. We come to a stop before an iron wall. Alright, wait here for a moment. The solid rock wall surrounding us suddenly splits open down the middle, revealing a narrow chamber. This is a lift pod, a device designed to move people up and down with ease. Everyone else is excited by these novel contraptions, but I remain completely unmoved since things like this were entirely ordinary in my former world. After descending 30 meters in the lift pod, we arrive at a room constructed entirely of metal. I give the room a cursory scan. If it were not for that infuriating old man wanting to come here, I never would have left my injured mother. Yaris is perched on my shoulder, looking around with wide-eyed curiosity. Wow, what is all of this? I never expected these ugly goblins to be capable of something like this. Little one, why are you not saying anything? I glance at Yaris, then sweep my gaze over the goblins in the room. I notice that aside from me, none of the other goblins can see this little spirit. Yaris seems to sense what I am thinking and whispers in my ear, "Do not worry, those lower goblins cannot see the great Yaris." Before long, led by Silvar, I am brought to an iron door. As the iron door swings open, I hear a familiar sound, a rapid succession of gunshots echoing through the spacious room. Could those be firearms? These are collectively called guns, high-level products from the Eastern continent. After tremendous effort, we have finally managed to replicate them. Silvar introduces their achievement with unmistakable pride. The other goblins are all eager to try, but I alone keep a stony expression, showing not the slightest reaction, which visibly irritates Silvar. What he does not know is that Yaris, sitting on my shoulder, is absolutely beside herself. What are all these things? They look incredibly interesting. I, the great Yaris, takes one little nap, and the world fills up with all of this. I tune out her chattering, and walk to the weapon rack, reaching out to take the only precision rifle on the shelf. After handling it briefly, I am deeply disappointed. A precision rifle is unlike other firearms. Its craftsmanship requirements are extremely high, and the slightest flaw affects accuracy. A precision rifle with poor accuracy is nothing short of a liability. Just then, a group of goblins struts over aggressively. Hey, that is a treasure here. Do not damage it. If you break it, you are paying for it. What do you want to do? What do we want? We are just making sure you backwater lot do not ruin what we worked so hard to create. Warden Dong spots the badly bruised goblin Bok behind Gok and immediately understands why the hostility. Have I not already explained? Bryn's disappearance has nothing to do with us. That is your idea of an explanation? You want to explain things, do you? Then let us have a proper talk right now. Bok rolls up his sleeves, ready for a fight. Fortunately, Silvar steps in at just the right moment. What is going on here? You want to kill each other? Am I invisible to you? With Silvar present, Gok does not dare make trouble, and quickly explains. You have misunderstood, Master Silvar. We only wanted to have a little contest with these goblins from the Grand Nest. We have heard the goblins from the Grand Nest are very capable, so we wanted to see for ourselves. Unless They are afraid? Is this not just taking advantage? You are intimately familiar with these weapons, they know nothing about them. Or are they just scared? Warden Dong cannot stand the provocation and immediately agrees. Seeing this, Bok immediately jumps out and points at me. Good, I want to go against that one. And do not say I'm bullying you. You get to choose, shooting or assembly, whatever you prefer. I continue examining the gun in my hand, without sparing Bok so much as a glance. Bok stamps his foot in fury beside me. You bastard, I'm going to humiliate you thoroughly and then kill you. Even Yaris is nervous on my behalf. Do you actually know how to use that strange toy? Then let us compete on disassembly and assembly of the rifle. This is not fair. You know these things inside out while we have never even seen them before. That is exactly why I let him choose in the first place. Of course, if you are frightened and want to back out, that is perfectly fine. Bok says this with a challenging look aimed at me. Even Yaris on my shoulder is getting frustrated. What is wrong with that ugly creature? Little one, if you beg the great Yaris, I will tell you the secret to winning. I pay Yaris's offer no mind, and turn to Bok. Fine, either works for me. Then let us begin. Warden Dong moves to intervene, but Shai advises otherwise. Do you not think Kaivan seems confident? Let us watch first. Losing is just losing, it is not going to kill anyone. By now, Bok and I are already at the workbench. Bok is supremely confident. There is no way he will lose to someone with no experience. What he does not know is that I am no novice at all. In my past life, I grew up handling things like this. I know these weapons better than anyone. Bok puts on a face of supreme arrogance. The moment he picks up his gun, he expects to turn and see me fumbling helplessly, but finds that my rifle is already halfway disassembled, and barely 1 second has passed. The other goblins watching are equally stunned. Only when I slap the fully reassembled rifle down on the table with a sharp crack does everyone snap back to their senses. Bok, what are you standing there for? Hearing Gok's voice, Bok snaps to and begins his disassembly, but it is already too late. Bok, furious and humiliated, gives up on the contest entirely and snarls at me. Why are you so skilled at this? Almost simultaneously, a gunshot rings out. Before Bok can even react, he drops to the ground with a thud, dead. Every goblin's gaze follows the direction of the shot and lands on me. They see the gun in my raised hand still smoking. Congratulations, you have slain Bok. Based on the effect of your skill devour, you have acquired this goblin's talent, Rapid Mend. Why did you do that? You had already won. Is this how you killed Bryn too? You, harming your own kind, you should be executed on the spot. So I killed him. What is wrong with that? Who told you that winning a contest means you can kill the other party? Is that not common sense? In my past life's assassin training, the loser of any contest had only one outcome, death. My words are taken as a direct provocation. The goblins are just about to surge forward when Warden Dong blocks them. Hey, what do you think you're doing to my goblin? Your goblin killed mine. So according to the marshal's rules, if I kill him for it, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Warden Dong pushes back firmly. From what I saw, it was your goblin who was trying to kill Kaven. Kaven only fired in self-defense. Did you not hear what he just said? Alright, we are all goblins here. Silvar has not even finished speaking when the ground suddenly shakes violently. The goblins are still trying to figure out what is happening, when red lights blaze on all around them, accompanied by a piercing alarm. An intruder has breached the nest. Against the attacking adventurers, a group of lower-order goblins throws themselves forward, like moths to a flame, and are wiped out to the last. Watching this suicidal charge, Shai is bewildered. Why send them to their deaths? With our combat strength, we could take these enemies head-on without a problem. Of course we want them to see our weaknesses, so they relax their guard and push deeper in. Just watch. Every last one of these arrogant adventurers will be buried here. Do you really care so little about your companions' lives? The big goblin grabs his blade with a disgruntled look and heads toward the entrance. Where are you going? Where am I going? To kill every last one of those intruders outside, obviously. With that, the big goblin ignores Warden Dong's attempts to stop him and turns to leave. Baya also moves to go, but Shai blocks him. What are you doing? Someone like you going out there is anything other than suicide. Shai hoists Baya off the ground with one hand. Baya kicks his feet and struggles with everything he has. He has to get out there immediately and remind those adventurers of the situation and tell them to run. Otherwise, those people will surely die here. With that thought burning in him, Baya lashes out and grabs at Shai. Oh, quite fierce. But I cannot let you go and cause trouble. If you do not want anything to happen to that girl in your room, you had best stay quiet. Yaris, watching all of this, wears a knowing smile. At this point, the goblin's eyes are all fixed on the large screen, but I care nothing for it. Instead, I remember my arrangement with Cress, and simply walk straight out of the weapons training area. Gok spots me slipping away and immediately brings people to follow. But after a single turn, I have vanished without a trace. I have already made my way to the third underground level of the goblin nest. Having shaken off those following me, I walk alone through the corridor, observing my surroundings, and mapping the layout as I go. Suddenly, I sense movement, and immediately conceal my presence and hide. Not far away, I discover Rugnar in conversation with a human woman. Rugnar reaches into his pocket and produces a folded piece of paper, handing it to the woman. Give this to that person. The woman reaches out and takes it, then turns and leaves without looking back. Rugnar watches her go, his expression grave, and lets out a slow sigh. Just as he turns to leave, he suddenly senses the presence of another goblin. How did our honored guest end up all the way here? Has my apprentice been a poor host? Lord Kaven. At that, I stop hiding and step slowly out into the open. Rugnar sees me and bursts out laughing. The marshal was right about you. You nearly fooled even me. How did you detect me? Rugnar just keeps laughing. He offers no explanation, instead gesturing welcomingly toward his room. Would you honor me with a bit of your time? Following his invitation, I step inside and am immediately drawn to the weapon displayed at the center of the room. It is a formidable heavy precision rifle, like a sleeping beast waiting quietly for the moment it is called to wake. My gaze is fixed on it completely. Seeing this, Ragnar gives a small, satisfied smile. Do you like it, Lord Caven? I nod without hesitation. It is, without question, the most perfectly crafted mechanical work I have seen since coming to this world. If you like it, I will give it to you. What is your condition? Ragnar laughs at this. It can't be called a condition, just consider what I'm about to say as a request. Whether you act on it or not, the rifle is yours either way. I take the heavy precision rifle, spend a moment getting a feel for it, then immediately begin disassembling and reassembling it. The speed stuns even Ragnar, who has spent years studying this very rifle. As the last piece clicks into place, I look up at Ragnar, who is standing completely dazed. He snaps back to himself, and looking toward the door says, I hope you will go now and save the goblin who charged out to the front. And in the coming days, if you see any goblin you acknowledge fall into danger, I hope you will save them. As he says this, he bows deeply toward me. I am not entirely sure what kind of danger he means, but I nod and accept. I will take this mission. Ragnar is visibly surprised by how readily I agree. Given how many flaws goblins carry by nature, he had expected me to refuse outright, but he understands they are only trying to survive. With that thought, Ragnar's expression grows unexpectedly somber. Lord Caven, do you think the way goblins survive is truly wrong? Our kind has no females of our own. The only way we can continue is by taking females from other races. I can understand why they hate us for it, but we only want our kind to go on. He grows more and more agitated as he speaks, looking up at me with the hope of an answer. But to his surprise, I respond with complete indifference. How would I know? Wrong is wrong. What's there to think about? My bluntness leaves him at a complete loss. I glance at Ragnar, who is now hunched over, murmuring to himself. Store the heavy precision rifle in my storage ring. Paying him no further attention, I step outside, scan the surroundings, no goblins in sight. At this moment, Gok is prowling the corridors with a vicious look, searching for me. Where in the world did that damned little brat disappear to? He had better hope I do not find him, or else. Just then, he catches a familiar voice, accompanied by the voice of a human woman. He peeks around the corner of the wall and is stunned to find Anvil in conversation with a human woman. But in the blink of an eye, both of them vanish. At that very moment, Anvil's voice comes from directly behind him. What are you doing? What did you see? Gok feels a sudden, inexplicable pressure wash over him and takes an involuntary step back. Anvil sees this and gives a faint smile. No matter. What is done is done. What good would talking do now? Gok is still puzzling over what those words mean, when a sword flashes from its scabbard like lightning and Anvil's figure blurs, a vicious slash of sword energy driving straight down at him. The pain that tears through Gok is excruciating. He clutches the stump of his severed arm, face twisted with fury and terror. If he had not reacted in time, that strike would have killed him. Why? You saw something you should not have. Just then, a dark figure drops from above, with a devastating downward slash, cleaving straight down at Gok. Gok lets out a single shriek, and his body is split in two. Anvil looks at the gruesome result without a trace of reaction. You are making quite a mess for me to clean up. At that moment, a human woman in a black cloak steps out from the shadows. In her hand is a pitch-black dagger, still wet with Gok's blood. She looks at Anvil, a wry smile curling at her lips. And here I thought a traitor like you might be feeling sorry for his comrade. Cress reaches into her pocket and pulls out a small pouch. Tossing it to Anvil, he catches it, a brief flicker of gratitude crossing his eyes, and thanks her quickly. Then he takes what he came for and leaves. Cress, too, prepares to leave with the latest intelligence, only to realize she seems to have gotten lost. Just as she stands there holding her head in confusion, she catches a familiar presence. It is Caven! Meanwhile, given that I was a decisive and ruthless assassin in my past life, when it comes to the enemies who have invaded the nest, I do not hesitate, I take aim and kill. The big goblin who has charged to the front line is roaring in furious defiance. Why are you destroying our home? Because you are goblins, obviously. Just for that? That alone gives you the right to slaughter us however you please? Is that not reason enough? Cruel lets out a cold laugh and swings his spear again. The big goblin is sent flying in an instant, slamming hard into the cave wall. He spits blood and slides limply to the ground. But he does not give up. He slowly pulls himself upright and declares with iron resolve, I will kill every one of you, no matter what it costs. But the only response he gets is Cruel's contemptuous laughter. What a shame, you are far too weak right now, you cannot do a thing. The words have barely left his mouth before Cruel tightens his grip on his spear and moves in for the kill. But the very instant the spear is about to pierce the big goblin's body, the entire nest seems to shudder as though struck by an invisible force. A deafening gunshot explodes through the cave. An instant later, a bullet closes in on Cruel at a speed the eye can barely follow. Cruel senses the danger on instinct and rapidly raises his magic barrier to meet the sudden attack. To his shock, he discovers that the barrier he believed unbreakable shatters against the bullet as though it were nothing. He can only watch helplessly as the bullet punches through the barrier and tears through his shoulder. How is this possible? I had the barrier up. No weapon should be able to penetrate my body. What is going on? At that very moment, a dark figure silently materializes in front of the big goblin, reaching out to yank the wounded big goblin away. Cruel spots this and immediately shouts, Mord! The instant the name leaves his lips, a blazing golden figure streaks forward like lightning and lunges at me. It is Mord. Do you think you can run? Not a chance. I react instantly. I hoist the big goblin and fling him forward, then shift position in a blur, neatly evading Mord's strike. Just then, a pleasant woman's voice rings out from above. Oh? Still trying to escape? One after another, blazing fireballs rain down from above, bearing straight for me. The scorching waves of heat force me back step by step. In the firelight, Sarah steps into view with an unhurried, graceful stride. I fix a wary gaze on the three of them. I can feel that all three are significantly stronger than me. In a straight fight, I have no chance whatsoever. Just as I am considering using the big goblin as bait, Cruel recognizes me. So you are that goblin. Since you have come all this way, leave your life here. Then come on, I dare you to try and kill me. Do not worry, none of you are going anywhere. Cruel loosens up and is about to make his move when Anvil's voice suddenly rings out from inside the nest. A fully armed goblin squad bursts out from the nest, rifles in hand, swiftly cutting off every path of advance for the adventurers. Everyone, take aim, prepare to fire. On Anvil's command, all gun muzzles point at the adventurers. The adventurers turn pale with shock and instantly break into chaos. Amid the chaos, Cruel snaps to and immediately steps sideways to place himself in front of Sarah. Then Anvil issues his next order. Open fire at will. The words have barely landed before a wall of gunfire erupts, muzzle flashes lighting up the entire night sky. Under the withering barrage, adventurers fall by the dozen. Cruel keeps Sarah pulled close, using his own body to shield her from the bullets. Mord swings his great sword furiously, deflecting the bullets that keep coming at him. At the critical moment, Sarah begins to chant, and a gentle radiance blooms from her hands, forming an enormous protective dome that envelops the surviving adventurers. Once Cruel confirms no other threats remain, he turns a furious glare toward the goblins. You damned goblins, I will kill all of you. At that moment, Anvil strolls out carrying a cannon on his shoulder. He splits his fang-filled mouth in a mocking grin. You humans really have no respect for us goblins at all. With that, he lights the fuse without hesitation. The cannon's roar instantly fills the entire cave. Cruel's face goes white with shock. He whips around and screams at the survivors behind him, "Run!" But the cannon's power far exceeds what he imagined. The instant it fires, the entire ground shakes, and the whole nest shudders with it. When the smoke clears, nothing remains on the ground but ruin and the bodies of adventurers. Anvil's eyes are full of smug satisfaction. He turns a proud gaze toward me. But at this moment, the big goblin wants to press the advantage and slaughter every last human, and I block his path. What gives you the right to stop me? Do you have any idea how many of us those damn humans have killed? I say nothing. I simply turn slowly and stare at Big Goblin, intimidated by my presence. The Big Goblin takes several involuntary steps back. He quickly recognizes his own weakness and steels himself to challenge me. But the moment he braces himself, a sharp, searing pain erupts in his chest. It never crossed his mind that the very goblin who just saved his life would now drive a blade into him without hesitation. Only I know that my dagger has deliberately missed anything vital. I pull the dagger free and give him a cold warning. If you ever cause my task to fail again, the next time I will not miss. The big goblin spits blood. His body buckles and he drops to one knee. Anvil watches my retreating figure and is just about to say something comforting to the big goblin when the big goblin lets out an awed exclamation. That was incredible. He is so cool. At those words, Anvil's outstretched hand freezes in midair. He stares in bafflement. Is something wrong with your head? He just drove a dagger into your chest. The big goblin slowly gets to his feet, turns toward where I disappeared and goes after me. Anvil moves to stop him, but then notices that the stab wound on his chest has already stopped bleeding and shows signs of healing. They are both monsters. After the battle, I return to the goblin nest and quietly push open the door. I'm met by the sight of Vera's face. First tense, then slowly relaxing. Yaris catches this exchange and teases, "Is this what they call keeping a beauty in a golden house?" I ignore the jab and walk straight into the room, tossing a large bag to Vera. Food. I then take out my dagger and other weapons and begin maintaining them. Vera opens the bag carefully and finds an assortment of fruit. Then her gaze drifts to another bag beside me. I immediately pull it close and fix her with a guarded stare. What is that? It's a gift from my mother. Vera's eyes go wide as she looks up at me. She never expected to hear the word mother from a goblin. It is common knowledge that goblins have no concept of a mother. They have no females of their own, which is precisely why they take them from other races. While Vera is lost in her thoughts, I have already finished checking my gear and opened the door. Seeing me about to leave again, Vera quickly asks, "Where are you going?" "Home. Can I come with you?" All she wants right now is to escape this nest, and she figures that staying close to me might give her a better chance at getting out. I refuse outright, but then reconsider. If Mother has been stuck alone in that dark room all this time, I change my answer. Next time, Vera does not push further. I head straight out of the middle nest and run in the direction of the grand nest. That is where my true home is. But not long after I leave, a pair of sharp eyes gleam with killing intent in the darkness, slipping silently into the shadows. In that instant, a spear tears through the air, aimed straight at my back. With no time to dodge, I act without thinking. I activate my skill and sink into the shadows. Cruel lets out a cold snort and reflects moonlight off the flat of his spear blade, driving me out of the shadows. "Well, I did not expect to run into you again. I am in a foul mood today. You will do nicely as an outlet. Blame your own bad luck." He tightens his grip on the spear and lunges at me, but his smile freezes almost immediately, because he sees with his own eyes that the instant the spear should have pierced me, I have dissolved into shadow and vanished into thin air. A shadow double? When did that happen? He scans in every direction and finds no trace of me. Just as he is puzzling over how I slipped past his senses, a thunderous gunshot rings out. The next second, a bullet punches through Cruel's body. Fortunately, he managed to shift just in time to spare his heart, otherwise he would already be a corpse. The wounded wounded Cruel lets out a roar of fury, as a surge of powerful magic erupts from within him. Then another bullet fires from the darkness, heading straight for his heart. But something remarkable happens. The instant the bullet is about to reach him, it is deflected completely. Standing in the trees, I cannot help but wonder, what just happened? Then I recall what the marshal once told me. That strange force is magic. So magic is winding around Cruel's body, forming an impenetrable barrier. Looking at it now, it is not mere wrapping. It is mana circulation through the body's channels, reinforcing his constitution and reducing consumption, making him exceptionally resilient and powerful. To test this theory, I chamber another round, and take aim at Cruel. Meanwhile, Cruel is still taunting, "Come out, you rat hiding in the corner. Those precious bullets of yours are nothing but toys to me. They cannot so much as scratch me." The next second, a shot rings out and a bullet punches clean through his right hand. Damn it! He stares wide-eyed at the wound. Then another bullet strikes his left foot. Blood flows freely from the wound, but a smile spreads across Cruel's face. He murmurs to himself, "Found you." Through the scope, I observe Cruel clearly and see that he has concentrated all his mana around his heart. I adjust the scope and search for a new target point, preparing to aim elsewhere of his for a killing shot. Then suddenly, a chill creeps up from behind me. Without hesitation, I immediately vacate my position. The next second, the tree where I had been standing is hacked to splinters. Keeping my composure, I raise the rifle and begin firing from a new position each time. But every tree I land on is split apart immediately after. After several exchanges, Cruel's roar erupts through the forest. "Damn goblin brat, I will kill you!" Then an overwhelming surge of magic explodes from within Cruel, rapidly concentrating in his spear, until it seems to come alive, humming with a deep resonant vibration. I sense the magic and my expression shifts abruptly. I move to escape the danger as fast as I can, but a terrifying suction force suddenly engulfs me, coiling around my body and pulling at me, until I cannot move. I silently acknowledge the situation is bad. The next second, the enraged Cruel swings his spear in a vicious arc through the air, and a massive tornado materializes in an instant. Moments later, the tornado dies down and the dust disperses. Cruel stands on the ground, leaning on his spear to keep his unsteady body upright, gasping for breath. It is clear that strike consumed most of his remaining strength. He murmurs with hopeful anticipation, "Is it all over?" Then a pitch-black shadow slowly rises into view. The open, barren ground offers me nowhere to hide. Cruel immediately bursts out laughing. "Found you!" He prepares to unleash his mana again, but my finger is already on the trigger and I fire directly at him. Cruel is caught off guard by my speed, but he refuses to let me slip away again, so he takes the hit. The bullet passes through his chest. He then charges straight at me, and just as he is about to deliver the killing blow, his legs buckle and he drops to his knees. What is happening to me? Cruel slowly raises his head and looks at me, and the realization hits him. "You put poison in the bullets. You are insane." "It is over now," I say coldly, and prepare to end Cruel's life. But just as I am about to act, a blade of light suddenly drops from above. By reflex, I pull the trigger again, but the sword light is faster than I anticipated. It is like a silver dragon, leaving a brilliant arc across the sky. It slams hard into the body of my rifle. The scope shatters, fragments flying in every direction. The shockwave wrenches the barrel violently off course, and the bullet that was meant for its target goes wide, striking Cruel in his left hand instead. Already poisoned, the bullet hit sends Cruel's body swaying, but through sheer force of will he keeps his grip on his spear, refusing to let himself fall, holding himself up on one knee. Then a furious roar sounds. It is Mord. He charges with his sword. "You damn goblin! How dare you hurt brother Cruel!" At the sight of him, I immediately sharpen my focus and fall back several steps, putting distance between myself and Mord. At the same time, I stow the rifle and draw a sharp dagger from my waist, readying myself for his assault. "Be careful, that goblin uses poison and his concealment is exceptional. Lose focus and you will lose him." Mord gives a nod and keeps relentlessly on my heels. As time passes, the poison in my own body begins to take effect. My stamina has been nearly drained by the fight with Cruel. In a single moment, the paralytic toxin causes my movements to stiffen, and the battle-hardened Mord catches it. He seizes the opening and knocks the dagger from my hand. It is over! But just as he moves to take my life, he finds no trace of panic on my cold face. A vague and unsettling premonition stirs within him, but he draws a breath and brings his sword down at me anyway. The very instant the blade is about to reach my body, something remarkable occurs. My outline blurs and darkens, my entire body beginning to merge into shadow. But just as I am about to vanish completely, a beam of moonlight strikes me and forcibly drives me out of the shadow. I glance back. Cruel is lying on the ground nearby, his spear beside him reflecting the moonlight. "Mord, kill that brat. I will take you out for a feast when we get back." Mord swings at me again. Strangely, my expression still does not change. Just as the sword is about to fall, a pitch-black object appears in my hand. Mord takes a closer look. It is a bomb. His heart lurches. And the next second, a tremendous blast shakes the entire battlefield, fire swallowing us both in an instant. Through the billowing smoke and dust, Mord forces his eyes open. A sharp flash of light cuts through the smoke, splitting it apart to reveal my silhouette. I am holding the rifle, barrel aimed directly at Mord. "I will not let you run." Mord ignores the burns on his body and forces himself forward through the pain. I pull the trigger and fire straight at him, but in the instant the bullet is about to connect, he dodges it at a speed that defies belief. Even I find it impossible to fathom. It is useless. Any ranged attack within my field of vision cannot hit me. With that, a devastating slash comes in almost too fast to track. I throw everything I have into raising my dagger across my chest to block it, but the moment my dagger meets the blade, it shatters. The shockwave hurls me backward. I move to use the momentum to create distance between us, but the next second he has already reappeared in front of me, his sword pointed at my throat. A flash of inspiration, I fling dozens of bombs in every direction around me. Several of them land near Cruel. Mord sees this and does not hesitate. He immediately falls back to defend. I fire again while he is repositioning, but he dodges every shot. Mord laughs out loud. Useless. With my skill, your bullets will never hit me. But I raise the rifle again, and this time I aim at Cruel. Mord assumes I am still targeting him and laughs loudly. It's useless. Your rifle cannot hit me. You can block it, but can he? When Mord realizes what I am actually aimed at, his eyes go wide. Cruel assumes it is all over, closes his eyes and waits for the bullet to tear through him. But when the shot rings out, Cruel opens his eyes and sees Mord's heart pierced by the bullet. No! Cruel lets out a raw, anguished cry. I tighten my grip on the trigger, ready to deliver the killing shot to Cruel, but just as I am about to reload, an inexplicable instinct rises inside me. I pull my hand back. Without a moment's hesitation, I vanish into the darkness. Almost simultaneously, the sound of rapid footsteps reaches from the distance. Reinforcements have arrived, but they are too late. Cruel holds the barely breathing Mord in his arms and screams with everything he has, "Hurry, a healer!" Amy rushes forward to assess the situation. When she touches Mord's body, she shakes her head, voice heavy. There is nothing I can do. The poison inside him is unlike anything I have ever encountered. Please, I am begging you, save him. Even if I could remove the poison, his shattered heart can no longer sustain him. At that moment, Mord suddenly breaks into violent coughing. He struggles to raise his head and looks at Cruel. It looks like I will not be having that feast. Brother Cruel, what a pity that I never got to fight you. Mord wants to say more, but the words will not come. Then a pair of hands reaches out and gently strokes his head. Mord's head slowly falls, and he is gone. Seeing Mord dead, Cruel lets out a roar that is equal parts grief and fury. I will kill every last goblin as your sacrifice. Meanwhile, I, the culprit, am staggering my way back toward the goblin nest. This body is such a nuisance. If it were my old self, I would have been immune to this much poison long ago. Deep in the darkened forest, an arrow suddenly comes from nowhere. I sense the threat just in time and manage to dodge with my exhausted, poisoned body. The arrow punches straight through a tree trunk and buries itself in the ground. This is bad. I stagger upright and press a hand to my forehead, trying to hold on to my senses. Then more arrows fire from the darkness. I have nothing left to dodge with, I can only watch them come. Then suddenly the system chimes in my ear. Congratulations, you have slain a human. Based on the effect of your skill devour, you have acquired this human's talent, arrow evasion. In that instant, the arrows flying toward me seem to freeze as though time itself has been paused. My body responds instantly, weaving through the rain of arrows with perfect precision. The elves lurking in the shadows stare wide-eyed in disbelief. How is that possible? Keep firing. I refuse to believe he can keep dodging forever, but in the blink of an eye, I have already vanished. The young elf warrior scans around in frantic confusion, his eyes filled with bewilderment and urgency. This cannot be serious. We are elves, favored by nature. How can we possibly lose track of a goblin in this forest? But the words are barely out before they seem to catch in his own throat. He tries to find any trace of me, but there is nothing. Just as he is on the verge of disbelief, a sharp whistle of something cutting through the air rings out, and Limru jerks his head upward to see countless pitch-black objects falling from the sky like a meteor shower. Watch out! The bombs detonate in a cascade of explosions, the shockwaves scattering the team of elves entirely. The elf girl Lias is thrown violently by the blast wave and slams hard against the base of a massive tree. At that very moment, a dark figure closes in on her rapidly. It is a pointed-eared goblin. She squeezes her eyes shut on instinct, bracing for death, but the blow she expects never comes. When she opens her eyes, she finds my puzzled gaze looking back at her, with an inexplicable glimmer of something like happiness in it. Lias does not understand why I am looking at her with such confusion, and I, mistaking her expression of disgust for the unique way people like my mother say hello, cannot help but smile. I had intended to kill her, but seeing that her face resembles my mother's, and remembering how much my mother has longed to meet one of her own kind, I hesitate. The other elves seize the opening and loose arrows at me. I dodge the first arrow with quick reflexes, but overlook the second one coming from behind. It drives through me and pins me to the tree. Blood pours out and spatters across the elf girl Lias. Such a filthy creature. Its very existence is an insult to the noble pure-blooded elves. Pinned to the tree, I stare in confusion. I have no idea what she is saying. I want to pull free and respond, but the consecutive battles have already pushed me far past my limits. I no longer have even the strength to speak. I can only hang there helplessly, at the mercy of whoever wishes to act. Shall we kill him? But he may know something about Venora. A pure-blooded elf who has been tainted must not be allowed to remain in this world. Come to think of it, he is apparently Venora's child, which means he should know where Venora is now. Fetch someone skilled in interrogation immediately. Tell them we have captured a key figure from the goblin nest. Lias watches Limru with a chill running through her entire body, but she forces herself to hold back the fear, gives a stiff nod, and turns to leave. Once she is gone, Limru decides to have some fun with me. While we wait, let us enjoy ourselves. With a wave of his hand, all manner of weapons and torture implements spill out from his storage ring and scatter across the ground. I give them a brief, dispassionate glance, then look away. As a top-tier assassin, I have long been accustomed to walking the edge between life and death and enduring every form of pain. Seeing this, Limru picks up a sharp silver needle and drives it hard into my body. I continue staring at him without expression. Damn you, what are you looking at, goblin? Are you mocking me? He swings his weapons wildly, torturing me mercilessly. But to me, it all feels like nothing more than a light scratch. I do not even furrow my brow. An hour later, Limru is out of breath. He slumps to the ground, gasping heavily. Since you insist on being so uncooperative, do not blame me for what comes next. He roars himself upright again, preparing to launch a killing blow, when at the critical moment, a sudden change occurs. A commanding and ominous voice suddenly sounds, "Oh, and what exactly do you plan to do to him?" Limru is struck by an arrow and drops drops to the ground in an instant. His companions see this and raise their bows almost without hesitation, ready to attack the unknown goblin. But the very instant they prepare to fire, a devastating slash appears from nowhere, like lightning splitting the night sky. The elves let out screams of terror, their heads arc through the air and fall heavily to the ground, rolling to rest beside the bodies of their companions. For a moment, the forest is thick with the smell of blood and the suffocating presence of death. Limru narrows his eyes, composing himself for battle. He knows exactly who this goblin is. He tenses and presses the tip of his dagger against my throat, using me as his last leverage against the overwhelming enemy before him. The marshal turns his gaze toward me, the one being held hostage, and a faint mocking smile crosses his face. Well, well, who would have thought you would end up like this? I hold his gaze with the same calm, expressionless look as always. Limru catches this and allows himself a small smile of satisfaction. Clearly, I am very important indeed. As the marshal inches closer, Limru presses the dagger against my neck. One more step and I kill this little one, but the marshal keeps coming. In response, Limru raises the dagger and thrusts it toward me, but at that moment a devastating sword energy erupts from behind him. Before he can react, a tremendous force crashes into him. When he slams down hard on the ground, he finds to his shock that his left arm is gone. He spits blood and raises his head toward the marshal, and sees that green figure walking slowly toward him. Just as the marshal raises his hand about to crush the elf in his palm, Limru suddenly bursts out laughing. "You underestimate me!" The words have barely landed, when patches of vivid green plants burst from the ground, growing rapidly to form a barrier between him and the marshal. But to the marshal, the vines are a trivial inconvenience. He gives the barest sweep of his arm, and they are torn apart. Watching this, Limru does not give up. He immediately commands the remaining vines to attack both the marshal and me. The marshal steps in front of me and tears through the vines. Just as he is about to pursue and kill Limru, he stops. After a brief pause, he scoops me up and turns to leave. At this very moment, Morris's figure arrives on the scene. He stares at the familiar silhouette and demands, "Why are you here?" The marshal says nothing, leaving Morris only that familiar yet foreign retreating figure. Morris moves to give chase, when the ground suddenly shakes violently. Countless vines burst from the earth and seal off every direction ahead of him. At the same time, urgent footsteps rush in from nearby. Goblin after goblin pours out of the darkness and closes in around Morris. Then the world voice chimes in his ear. "Enemy goblins detected. Your personal skill Goblin Bane activates. Your hatred for goblins surpasses all measure. Attack power against goblins increased by 200%. As the notification sounds, the mana within Morris ignites and boils over in an instant. He lets out a raw battle cry and throws himself into the mass of goblins. Meanwhile, on the other side, Malika is nursing her head with a pained grimace. "I never expected this. The marshal of this nest actually killed my clone. But it is not a great issue." As she says this, she looks up at the marshal's castle before her, and lets out a quiet laugh. After all, the marshal has already left, which means there is nothing inside the nest that can threaten me. With that thought, she slips silently into the castle, and finds Alara in one of the rooms. "By the way, your holiness the saint, how long are you planning to keep pretending to sleep?" Caught out, Alara has no choice but to open her eyes and face the uninvited guest before her. "From the moment I was bound to the pyre, I ceased to be a saint. You may call me Alara, or, if you prefer, the marshal's wife." At those words, an indescribable feeling wells up inside Malika. She cannot believe that Alara, the one who once defeated the Demon King, has become the Goblin Marshal's wife. Looking at this Alara who, without divine power, remains so completely composed, Malika's eyes light up. This place has the Marshal, that peculiar little goblin, and even a pure-blooded elf. The Demon King loves nothing more than interesting things, and he happens to be looking for a new residence. So what do you say, should we? Before Malika can finish, a terrifying killing intent erupts from Alara. "Do you truly believe I cannot kill you?" Malika actually steps forward at that. "Lady Alara, do you still believe you are still the highest existence of the church favored by the gods, the Saint Alara? Ow, you probably can't even use low-level divine spells, can you?" The words have barely landed before Alara raises her hand, and a terrifying force surges from within her. Malika is genuinely surprised by this. Just as she opens her mouth to say something, a sacred radiance floods the entire hall. Malika vanishes the instant the light ignites, leaving one sentence hanging in the air. "How unexpected," the one said to be the god's most faithful servant, doing something like this. Alara, hearing those words, stands motionless in place, and a complicated emotion flickers through her eyes. At this moment, Lias arrives in the forest with the adventurers, and at the sight before them, they all freeze. The proud elves who had been there are now separated from their heads, and of Limru, there is no trace at all. But what shocks them even more is Morris, standing atop a pile of goblin corpses. To kill this many goblins in such a short amount of time, his strength must have reached gold rank. Amy whispers into Fiona's ear, "The boss is angry." At that, Fiona's gaze sweeps across the goblin bodies, as though searching for something. Commander Edward, witnessing this, is beside himself with excitement. He never imagined Morris was this powerful. But amid so many faces full of elation, a small number are filled with barely concealed resentment. Krul's face is the darkest of all. He can practically feel the stares others are directing at him. Just then, a heavy rain suddenly pours down. Morris stands on the pile of bodies and lets the rain wash over him. Is it really him? With that thought, he slowly closes his eyes, and time seems to flow back 10 years. At that moment, a voice pulls him back from the memory. "Mr. Morris, it is raining. We should head back soon. Then we can discuss the plan for the goblin nest." Morris only says without inflection, "Give it a few days." He walks away from Edward as he says it, not giving the man's words a second thought. Right now his mind holds only that familiar silhouette. When he catches his teammates, looking at him with concern. Morris gestures to let them know he is fine. Only Dita watches the direction he disappears in, lost in thought. Meanwhile, I voice my protest from the marshal's back. Let me go! I try to get down, but no matter how hard I strain, my body refuses to obey me. Sensing my resistance, the marshal pauses for a moment, then slowly says, "We are going home." I blink at that and look at his weathered, wrinkled face. The marshal glances back at me over his shoulder, nods and repeats, "Going home." Hearing that, I think of my mother, Venora, and I stop fighting. I settle quietly on his back. The marshal carries me back to his home. The instant he steps through the door, the marshal catches an unusual scent. Before he can say anything, a graceful figure rushes toward them. "You are back, Theron," and then the words catch in her throat. Her gaze falls on me. The sight of my wounds all over fills her with distress. The moment she reaches to take me from the marshal's arms, my eyes snap open. I draw my dagger and my hair away from striking when I realize it is Alara, and I stop. But Alara lets the dagger pass through her palm. She still wants to stroke my head. I stare at her wide-eyed, unable to understand why she would do that. But from her, I sense a comfort that I have only ever felt from my mother. Alara gives a gentle smile, a faint white light glowing in her hand. Sleep. The word has barely left her lips before sleep washes over me like a tide. My eyes close slowly, and I slip back into dreams. Seeing me asleep, Alara slowly takes out a set of medicines and begins treating my wounds. Once Alara finishes treating me, the marshal sniffs the air and asks with concern, "What happened here? Did someone from the demon race come?" Alara slowly shakes her head, her expression somewhat grave. "Just a little demon, but that demon called Malika is not weak." At the same time, Malika spits up blood. She tightens her fists as though trying to suppress the fear and shock rising from deep within her. Damn it, worthy of someone who once defeated the Demon King. Even cast aside by the gods, she still wields this kind of power. A cold smile curls at the corner of Malika's mouth, even as her eyes burn with excitement. She never expected that Alara had become a sorcerer. She can already imagine what those stubborn old fossils in the church would say if this news reached them. With that thought, a sly smile spreads across her face. At this moment, within the grand nest, the creak of a door opening startles Venora awake. "Kaven, is that you?" The words have barely left her before Venora goes still. The marshal is standing in the doorway. At the sight of him, her body trembles uncontrollably. But when she sees me on the marshal's back, covered in bandages, she instinctively snatches me into her arms and steps away from the marshal. "What happened to Kaven?" The marshal hesitates a moment before speaking. "The elves did this." At that word, Venora looks at him as though trying to read something from his face. The marshal only meets her gaze briefly. "I am simply letting you know your presence is not good for him." With that, the marshal turns and leaves. Only once he is gone does Venora allow herself to break down quietly into tears. The sound stirs me from sleep. I open my eyes, see my mother's reddened eyes, and ask with worry, "Mother, what is wrong?" Venora does not answer. Instead, she asks, "Were your injuries caused by elves?" I tilt my head in confusion. I am not sure what kind of creature Mother means by elves. The ones with pointed ears like Mother. At that, I nod immediately. "Mother, why did those elves want to kill me? They said I was a filthy existence." Hearing this, fury surges inside Venora, but she knows showing it will only make me worry. In the end, she swallows it down and forces herself to explain. "But you must never believe what those bad elves say. Kaven, you are the most precious thing in Mother's heart." I nod at that and drift back to sleep. At this, Yara suddenly hops out from my shoulder and tries once again to convince Venora to form a contract. But Venora refuses her again. At this moment, in a room within the middle nest, Baya's mind keeps echoing with my words. He does not fully understand them, but he knows what the goblins do to women is wrong. While he is sitting with that thought, a pair of hands gently rest on his head, and a voice offers comfort. "Do not cry." Baya looks up at Tessa, and his eyes go resolute in an instant. "Thank you. I will get you out, I promise." Even now, Tessa cannot bring herself to believe that the goblin in front of her will really let her escape. Just then, a violent banging erupts from the room next door, along with a goblin's voice. "Hey, get out here! Was it you that killed Gok, you little wretch?" Baya's ears prick up immediately. Beside him, Tessa flinches in fear and shrinks into the corner. Baya takes her hand and tries to comfort her in a trembling voice. "As long as we do not go out." The words are not even finished before a woman's scream cuts through the wall. At the sound of that anguished cry, Baya's body begins to tremble uncontrollably. Seeing his fear, Tessa grips his hand tightly. "Please stay here, I am frightened." But the next second, he slowly loosens her grip and charges toward the room next door. The moment the door swings open, he slashes at the goblin's arm with his dagger. A shriek follows, and Henry releases his grip on Vera's throat, then drives a kick into Baya's stomach. Baya loses control of his body in an instant and crumples to the floor. Henry looks down at Baya with a grin. "If I recall correctly, you have a little slave of your own, do you not?" Hearing that he intends to go after Tessa, Baya's eyes go wide and he struggles to get up. Henry is visibly pleased by the reaction and signals one of his subordinates to go inside and bring her out. Before long, the goblin drags Tessa out. She is clearly struggling against them. Then she looks over at Baya lying on the floor, and her eyes fill with despair. Baya sees this, ignores his injuries, and immediately charges forward. But Henry barely raises his foot, and Baya is sent flying. Baya lies on the ground watching as the goblins tear at Tessa's clothes. He weeps, pleading, "Please, please let her go." Deep in the underground metal corridor, firelight reflects off one leering face after another. A group of goblins. Cruelty and hunger gleam in their eyes. Surrounded by them, Tessa trembles helplessly. Those eyes, once so clear, are now filled with nothing but fear and despair. Baya looks up at her. She is still a child. In this moment, their eyes meet. Through the film of tears blurring her gaze, Baya seems to read an accusation against his meddling. If he had not overstepped his ability and stepped in, none of this might have happened. Tessa would not be here suffering like this. Baya's heart is flooded with guilt and regret. He hates his own powerlessness, hates the impulse that brought him here. With that thought consuming him, he lets out a cry of anguish and tries to beg the goblins, pleading for them to spare this innocent little girl. But the goblins act as though they cannot hear him and keep closing in on Tessa. Baya struggles with everything left in him, trying to break free and reach the little girl, but his strength is nothing against them. Just then, a figure bursts out from the side. Vera, seeing that the goblins would not even spare a child this small, is overcome with fury and indignation. Ignoring her own wounds, she throws herself forward without regard for her safety, trying to stop the goblins. But Henry only sneers and drives his foot into her abdomen. You still have time to worry about others? Brave as Vera is, her strength is nothing before a higher order goblin. A single kick sends her crashing to the ground. She clutches her stomach, groaning in pain. It hurts. She forces herself to look up through the pain, staring at the goblins closing in on Tessa. Her heart is full of fury. She cannot understand how cruelty like this can exist in the world. But how could those born to privilege ever understand? Cress, hiding in the corner, watches all of this with a cold expression and no intention of intervening. This kind of thing happens regularly in certain dark corners of the world, the slums especially. She could save the people here, but what about the women still locked in cages elsewhere? Her priority right now is to collect and relay the map intelligence. Cress tightens her fist. Just a few more days. Once I get this intelligence out, it will be the death of these goblins. But a sharp grating sound of metal scraping cuts through the silence, and Vera's attention is yanked toward it. She sees a goblin, scarred all over, with a torn ear, dragging himself across the floor with what little strength he has left, and yet his eyes still burn with determination. Even gravely wounded, he keeps moving towards something. Vera suddenly remembers the moment Baya came to save her, and she thinks of me, the goblin who helped her. Perhaps not all goblins are evil. In that single instant, Vera makes up her mind. She gently closes her eyes and presses her palms together. A soft white light slowly radiates from her palms, pure and warm as moonlight. Henry's eyes narrow with curiosity as he watches Vera. The next moment, an intricate magic circle begins to materialize beneath her. In the flickering of the light, a mysterious force seems to stir. At this very moment, Baya watches helplessly as Tessa is about to be violated by those cruel goblins. He lets out a howl of grief and fury, his voice full of despair. He hates himself for being so useless, unable to protect even one innocent child. Just as he is on the verge of total despair, a blinding white light suddenly descends from above and enters his body. He feels a powerful force spreading rapidly through his body. His wounds heal at a visible rate, and his strength surges to a level far beyond before. Tessa's voice is exceptionally faint amidst the chaos. No, please, no. But her body is still held fast in the goblin's grip, her clothes torn to shreds. Her delicate eyes are filled with terror and helplessness, her cries for help coming again and again. But the only answer is the goblin's cruel laughter and the sound of tearing. From the moment she was taken to the goblin nest, her fate was sealed. Perhaps this is the punishment gods give to children who do not know their place. The goblins look at the despairing Tessa and roar with laughter. Ha! She is already broken and we have not even started. Just as they are about to proceed, a flash of green light tears through the air, and the goblins scream as they are hurled backward. Then a familiar voice sounds beside Tessa's ear. I will get you out of here, I promise. She looks up to find Baya standing between her and the goblins, but her voice is hollow and empty, drained of everything but despair and numbness. It does not matter anymore. Her clothes have been torn away, leaving her exposed. How could she find the will to run now? The sight of her cuts through Baya like a blade. He knows Tessa no longer trusts him, but he does not give up. He tightens his fist and looks forward with unyielding resolve. Please believe in me. This time I will get you out safely, I swear it. The oath has barely left his mouth when a chilling laugh erupts from behind him. Then an enormous rough hand reaches out from the shadows without a sound and presses down precisely onto his small skull. Baya tries to look back, but all he sees is darkness, as though the entire world has caved in around him. With a thunderous impact, the ground splinters beneath him. Henry's foot grinds down on his head. A little power boost, and now you are talking big? Have you read too many storybooks? Do you actually think you are one of those storybook heroes who can beat us without breaking a sweat? Baya strains to lift his head, but Henry's weight is immovable as a mountain. Then a massive fist drops like a meteor and crashes down hard onto Baya's back. The next second, blood sprays from his mouth, soaking the front of his clothes red. He groans in agony, yet his eyes still burn with a light that refuses to yield. Henry raises his bloodied fist and grins. Stay still. I am not done with you yet. You have not gotten to watch your little slave be taken from you by all of us. The moment his words land, the cave erupts in a roar of laughter. The goblins leer and close in on Tessa and Vera, who are surrounded at the center. At this moment of life and death, Baya suddenly erupts with a burst of astonishing force. He fights with everything he has, and actually manages to lift Henry's foot slightly off his head, Henry's expression shifts slightly, but his response is even faster. He plants a foot on Bai's chest and wrenches both hands hard. The next second, the crack of breaking bone and a scream of pain echo through the cave. Henry looks as though he is enjoying every moment. He slowly raises his head toward the goblins closing in on Vera, a cruel smile at his lips. I didn't expect that you had this kind of power after all. It is enough to boost a useless wretch to something resembling a real fighter, at least for a moment. He moves slowly toward Vera, a contemptuous smile playing on his face, as though mocking this mage who looks so utterly helpless before him. Vera grips her staff tightly, her eyes full of despair. She knows exactly what her power amounts to. It is a magic that can greatly amplify the strength of others, but cannot enhance her own. Facing the formidable Henry, she feels like a helpless lamb that could be torn apart by this ferocious beast at any moment. At this moment, a goblin advances toward her with heavy, deliberate steps, its rough claws dragging along the cave wall with a grating screech. Vera's heart pounds so hard it feels as though it will burst through her chest. Just as the goblin is about to reach her, a sharp blade of light suddenly flashes from the darkness. It cuts through the silence of the cave like lightning. Then a thin red line appears across the goblin's forehead, running straight downward like the stroke of death's scythe. With a dull thud, the goblin drops. At this, Henry only laughs louder and bellows down the empty corridor. You have finally shown yourself. I knew you were here. Come out. Do not think that hiding from me means I cannot find you. His voice is like the howl of a beast, sending wave after wave of echoes through the empty corridor. His eyes burn with cruelty and excitement, as though he can already see the prey he is hunting. But just as he is about to continue his taunting with smug satisfaction, his voice cuts off abruptly, as though an invisible hand is closed around his throat. His face drains of color in an instant, the excitement replaced by terror and despair. He feels a wave of icy cold sweep in from behind him, and then a vivid red line appears silently across his throat. Blood fountains from Henry's neck, soaking his clothes red. The sight drops the entire room into silence, leaving only the sound of blood dripping. Until the moment death took him, Henry never knew how he had been killed. He never even caught a glimpse of the one who did it. And so, he died, bewildered, a victim of his own arrogance. Henry's head rolls to a stop at Baia's feet. Even so, those lifeless eyes still stare straight ahead, as though still speaking of unfulfilled fury and despair. Baia follows the direction of those dead eyes, and sees someone he will never forget for the rest of his life. That is me. I stand dressed in black, a dagger gleaming with cold light in my hand, motionless at the far end of the corridor. My build is slight, but my eyes are ice cold and unfathomable, as though they can see straight through to the soul. In this moment, Baia finally understands what lies ahead for him, and in this same moment, he silently makes up his mind that he will learn from me. He refuses to be this powerless ever again. The remaining goblins look frantically around, but they cannot find any trace of the enemy. Then 2 more goblins died, one of them their leader. In an instant, panic spreads through the group. You think you can just... The goblin does not finish the sentence before he crumples. At the sight, the others scream in terror. Faced with this sudden invisible enemy, they feel a fear unlike anything they have ever known before. It is not born of the enemy's power, but because they cannot see the enemy at all. Yet they can feel the shadow of death closing in around them. The goblins spin around and scramble to flee this nightmare. But what they do not know is that they are already trapped. From the moment they stepped into this place, their fate was already sealed. The next second, my aftermidge weaves through the mass of goblins, and each time it passes, another goblin screams and falls. I am like the Grim Reaper's scythe, reaping goblin lives without mercy. The 3 in the distance are left completely dumbstruck, and Cress, watching from the corner, is utterly transfixed. What none of them notice is that a goblin is watching all of this as well. What breathtaking skill! Cress watches from her corner in a daze of amazement. As expected of Caven, Tessa, lying on the ground, stares with disbelieving eyes, gazing numbly at that shadowy figure as an indescribable feeling wells up inside her. Perhaps the gods have not abandoned me after all. Then could this mysterious figure before me truly be one of the divine beings from the legends? Vera watches with a feeling she cannot put into words. She knew I was powerful, but not like this. No wonder those goblins showed me respect before. In what feels like no more than an instant, I have cleared out the majority of the goblins. Just as I move to deal with the last few, a pitch-black hammer suddenly interposes itself between me and them, blocking my strike. Enough! At that thunderous shout, Anvil swings the hammer and sends me flying backward. I tumble through the air, absorbing most of the impact with a series of flips, and land on my feet. Vera is immediately alarmed at the sight. She never imagined the goblin with the hammer could be so terrifying. Looking at all the goblins strewn across the ground, she cannot help but worry about me, because there is no way that killing this many goblins will simply be let go. And a goblin who deflects my attack that easily must hold a very high position in the nest. With that thought, Vera swallows hard, just about to step forward, when a single glance from me stops her in place. Stay put. My mother asked me to deliver a message to you. Were it not for my mother, I would not bother with any of this. More importantly, I despise anyone touching what belongs to me. Something was given to me, so why would they break their word? I can do without things, but I will not accept others taking what is mine. At the word mother for my mouth, Vera freezes on the spot. She even forgets to respond. Is Caven's mother a goblin? But goblins have no females, which means his mother must be a normal woman. But why does she want to help me? Could it be that because her child saved me, she wants to meet me? With that thought, she steals a glance at me, her head spinning and blank. If we can get out of here safely, meeting her mother is not out of the question. Watching the expressions shift across her face, I furrow my brows slightly. I have no idea what this woman is thinking, but I do not particularly. care. The most important thing right now is to take her with me. But the surviving goblins are already making their accusations. Lord Anvil, it was him. We did not do anything. You have to stand up for us. Anvil's expression remains cold. He sweeps his gaze around the room and eventually lets it settle on me, his thoughts unreadable. Seeing Anvil make no move, the goblin beside him opens his mouth, only to be cut off. Are you certain you did nothing? Under Anvil's cold and scrutinizing gaze, the goblins step back and recount what happened, not forgetting to add at the end, Lord Anvil, we came here to avenge Gawk. Do you have proof? The goblin who spoke stands there in stunned silence. When have goblins ever needed proof? If they do not like something they fight, that is how it works. But they notice that Anvil's gaze has grown even colder. So, you broke into an honored guest's room without any proof whatsoever? The goblins are about to argue, when the next moment a heavy hammer comes down on one goblin's head. With a wet crack, the goblin's head bursts like a tomato. The others watch in bewilderment, unable to understand why Anvil would protect an outsider. But the next moment, the sound of hammer meeting skull rings out again and again. One goblin skull after another splits apart under Anvil's heavy hammer. The shocking scene snaps Vera back from her thoughts, only for her to go blank again. What is happening? Why is this goblin killing other goblins? The only answer she gets is Anvil's impatient voice. Why are you all still standing there? Get away! I am about to leave. When something crosses my mind, I look back at Anvil. Why do you do things you do not like doing? No reason, and whether I like it or not is none of your concern. His answer leaves me with a quiet, faint feeling of disappointment. It is because this goblin reminds me a little of someone I once knew, a comrade I trained alongside in my past life. That person was strange. Right up until the moment I killed him with my own hands, he never answered my question. He just smiled and touched my face. With that thought, I glanced toward the corner, then take Vera into the room. Baya, picking himself up from the floor, watches me go into the room, and shifts his gaze to Anvil. He is just about to say something, but Anvil cuts him off with a sharp reprimand. In the end, Baya enters the room with Tessa's support. Once everyone is gone, Anvil doubles over and vomits on the floor. No matter what, it seems he still cannot get used to this. That is why he always stays at his master's side, making weapons. He had once thought he would never have to deal with anything like this his entire life. With that thought, Anvil wipes his mouth and lets out a bitter smile. Who could have imagined it would come to this? Then Cress's laughter drifts through the air. You really are useless, aren't you? I never expected that a goblin so famous for brutality would have a problem like this. Cress covers her mouth to stifle her laughter, eyes full of mockery. Anvil wipes his mouth again with no intention of rising to the bait. You are still here? Not leaving? Or perhaps you cannot get out? At his jab, Cress bristles instantly. What do you mean I cannot get out? She curses inwardly. How does this goblin know? Seeing that he has gotten to Cress, Anvil allows the faintest upward curl to touch the corner of his mouth. Then something comes to mind and his expression turns serious. I hope you will honor the agreement. At those words, a flicker of something like pity crosses Cress's eyes. They said they would. Anvil nods, stamps his foot on the ground, and calls out, Gulper! The word is barely landed before an enormous strange mouth rises slowly from the ground and swallows up every goblin body along with all the blood, leaving nothing behind. At the sight, Cress is openly envious. If she had one of those, cleaning up would be so much easier. With that thought, she looks back at Anvil. Incredibly convenient, but why do you want to integrate with the human side? The question catches Anvil off guard. After a brief silence, he glares at her with cold intensity. That is none of your business. Meanwhile, in my room, Vera sits on the bed watching me with a look of eager anticipation. What in the world does Kaven's mother want to say to me? Could it be a marriage proposal? He is a goblin, but apart from being a bit short, he seems alright. In addition, he has saved me so many times and he is absurdly powerful. With that thought, Vera sneaks a glance at me and a faint flush rises to her cheeks. What did your mother want to say to me? I watch the expressions change across her face, utterly baffled, but I do not pay it any mind and begin relaying what mother asked me to say. If you wish to leave, I can let you go, but I hope House Vagris will remember this. Venora had previously deduced from Vera's appearance and clothing that she belongs to House Vagris. House Vagris is also known as the human family that values promises above all others. Hearing the name of her family, Vera sits up sharply. It seems your mother knows quite a bit, but more importantly, can I really escape? You can, but you will need to wait. Wait for a time when the marshal is away. Once you find the right moment, escaping from here should not be difficult for you. Beyond that, the only goblin here you need to be wary of is old Rugnar, but he stays deep underground and has no reach up here. Moreover, even if you cannot beat him in a fight, it is no problem for you to escape. The marshal is a different matter. Against him, there is simply no opening to exploit. With that, I add without thinking. One more thing, my mother asks whether you would like to meet her before you leave. Hearing that my mother is the one who wants to meet her, Vera's head goes completely blank. At that very moment, the door rattles. Vera quickly gets off the bed, ears burning red, and goes to open it. But when the door opens, it is Cress, waving at me with a grin. I give her a brief glance, and take a folded paper from my storage ring, tossing it to her. Vera sneaks a look, and sees that it is unmistakably a map. Could it be a map of the nest? If that is really what it is, what is the relationship between Kaivan and this woman, and what role does each of them play? Even by her estimation, I am becoming harder and harder to read. Once she has the map, I tossed her. Cress nods enthusiastically. Incredible! With a map this perfect, I can finally get out of here. Overcome with excitement, she moves to throw her arms around me, only to find my dagger pressed against her throat. She immediately throws her hands up. Kaven, I did not mean anything by it. I am just happy. You did not mean anything by it, and you still did that to someone? At that, Cress looks between me and Vera with a meaningful gaze. Well then, I will leave you two to it. She is just about to go, when the door is knocked again. At the sound, Cress immediately uses her concealment skill and vanishes. Vera is left gaping at where she had been standing. After all, Watching a person disappear from right in front of you is impossible not to find shocking. I go to open the door. Standing there is Baya and Tessa. She stays close beside Baya, eyes darting to steal glances at me. Her clear eyes carry a mixture of curiosity and reverence, and something else underneath that is harder to name. Everyone present notices her behavior. A playful smile curls at the corner of Chris's mouth as she sizes up the little girl with interest. The instant Baya steps through the door, his eyes land on the unmistakably purple hair. A torrent of thoughts rushes through him. Why would someone like this be inside a goblin nest? Given how the nest was invaded before, the Adventurers Guild has clearly been paying attention to this place. So to destroy the nest, they would naturally send someone to infiltrate it and gather intelligence. He just never thought the guild would send her for a job like this. At this point, Cress suddenly breaks the brief silence. She looks at Baya with amused interest. "You can see me?" At that, Baya's chest tightens instantly. He looks down, not daring to meet her eyes. Without understanding the full situation, he absolutely cannot admit it, so he pretends not to see her and drops to his knees in front of me with a thud. "Please take me as your disciple." I look at the goblin in front of me with a puzzled expression. I have no idea what this sudden request means. What is a disciple? Baya blinks, caught off guard by the question. He is just about to explain when a deafening explosion suddenly rings out. The peaceful atmosphere is shattered in an instant. Vera flinches with a start and presses herself against the wall, hands groping at the rough stone for something to hold on to. What is happening? Sensing the tremor, Cress materializes. "That was fast. Caven, I am heading out ahead of you. The Adventurers Guild will launch their attack any moment now. If you are planning to keep your cover, you had better be careful. This time they have brought a good number of gold rank adventurers." With that, her figure vanishes into the air like a ghost. Those left behind, Vera included, are all thrown into deep confusion. They all want to ask the same thing. What does keeping your cover mean? Are you actually a traitor working against the goblins? Or are you a human hiding here? Baya, on the other hand, is overjoyed. He always felt I was no ordinary goblin, and now it seems his instinct was right. As expected, someone with skills this extraordinary could not possibly be a goblin. Looking at my composed, unhurried back, a deep admiration rises in his chest, then his gaze drifts to Vera. Judging from the way this woman acts, she is clearly not being coerced. If Caven were a real goblin, he would not be able to resist a woman like her, and would have done that, which will earn nothing but her disgust. Obviously, he had done no such thing, and even protected Tessa and me. Just as he is about to say something, the door is kicked open, and Warden Dong and Shai come rushing in. When Warden Dong's gaze settles on me and Vera, a flash of surprise crosses his face. "Why are all of you here?" "Well, set it aside, you must have felt the tremors outside. The adventurers have broken in, and from what the front line is reporting, their group includes some very dangerous individuals this time. We need to evacuate immediately and go deep underground. Once we are there, the adventurers cannot reach us." But no sooner has he finished than he notices that none of us are moving. The reason is that everyone else's gaze is fixed on me, as though in this moment I have become the anchor they are all looking to. Warden Dong is visibly taken aback by this. He looks at the two women, then at Baya, and a flicker of puzzlement crosses his thoughts. But he quickly pushes it down and turns to me. "Caven, is there something?" His tone carries a note of hope that I will be reasonable and not do anything rash. I blink slightly, feeling everyone's eyes on me, a faint puzzlement rising in my own chest, but I quickly set it aside and focus on the current situation. The situation right now is perfect for taking Vera out of the nest, but according to Warden Dong, the adventurers appear to be coming in from the front. Going out now would mean running directly into their main force. I am not so arrogant as to think I can evade them while protecting someone, especially without knowing the strength of what we would be facing. So I make my decision and tell Warden Dong, "We will go with you." At those words, Warden Dong quietly lets out a breath of relief. He immediately turns and leads the way at the front, occasionally glancing back at the two women and the goblin following behind me. For a moment, a flicker of confusion and doubt stirs within him. In the deep underground passage, the heavy footsteps echo alongside faintly tense breathing. They move quickly toward the lift pod gate that marks the entrance to the Goblin Forge. In the shadows beside the gate, a silver figure stands in silence. It is Silvar. In his hands is the silver great hammer that sends a chill through anyone who looks at it, as though he could unleash a crushing blow at any moment. Seeing Silvar standing at the gate without a word, Warden Dong urges him impatiently. "Silvar, we're here, open the gate." But Silvar does not move, as immovable as a stone statue. "Where is the big goblin?" His tone is calm, but his gaze locks onto me with something unsettling behind it, and a tide of alertness rises within me. I keep my expression still and quietly tighten my grip on the dagger. Warden Dong senses the subtle shift and scratches his head, trying to ease the tension. The big goblin went to the front line. You know how it is, ever since his nest was destroyed by the human adventurers, his hatred for them has only grown. Before he can finish, Silvar cuts him off. Seeing Silvar still not moving, Warden Dong reaches out to press the button beside them and open the iron gate, but just as his hand is about to make contact, a sharp gust of force cuts through the air. Silvar's figure blurs, and his hand now holds a massive hammer blazing with silver light. He brings it down without hesitation, a silver bolt of lightning splitting the darkness, and with a sharp whistle the hammer slams toward Warden Dong's arm. Warden Dong recoils in alarm, yanking his arm back, but it is not quite fast enough. The shockwave from the hammer's passing grazes along his arm, and a searing pain blazes through his entire body in an instant. He is shaken, silently acknowledging how close that was. One more fraction of a second, and the hammer would have shattered his arm clean off. Then a deafening boom rings out as the silver hammer crashes into the ground. The entire cave seems to shudder. A massive crater opens in the ground where it struck. Warden Dong stares at the crater, fury blazing in his chest. "What the hell are you doing? At that, Sylvar slowly raises his head, eyes cold as ice and sharp as steel. What am I doing? Do you have any idea? What lies below is the lifeblood of our kind. We have given nearly our whole lives to it. To us, what is down there is sacred ground, and I will absolutely not allow traitors like you to defile what we hold sacred. For a moment, it is as though the entire world has gone still. The great hammer cuts through the air with a howl, carrying all of Sylvar's fury and strength, and drives hard at Warden Dong. But Warden Dong is no ordinary goblin. He reacts instantly and shouts, "Get clear!" The instant the word leaves him, I, having sensed it first, have already pulled Vera aside. The others, taking their cue from my movement, react in time and get clear as well. But no matter how fast they move, the terrifying pressure wave cannot be fully escaped. The hammer itself misses, but the terrifying force it carries sweeps through like a tornado, tearing chunks of rock into its current. The hammer finally slams into the cave wall with a bone-shaking crash. The entire cave trembles under the impact, and looking at what lies before them, a chill runs through Warden Dong. He glares at Sylvar and shouts, "What exactly are you doing? And what do you mean by calling us traitors?" Sylvar raises his head with cold composure and looks at Warden Dong. A cold light gleams in his eyes. "Every weapon in the armory below has vanished. And then the human adventurers just happened to attack our nest. You call that a coincidence?" At that, Warden Dong's face goes slack with disbelief. "What? All of the weapons in the armory are gone? You play the part well. Other than your group, no outside goblin has entered that area. This time I will not fail." Giving them no chance to explain, Sylvar slowly raises the silver hammer, and the very air seems to solidify under the weight of his presence. Then a blinding flash of fire suddenly erupts from behind Sylvar, like a fire dragon thrashing through the darkness. Then a deafening explosion rings out, and the entire cave seems to shudder at once. The ground heaves violently beneath the blast, and its center is the lift pod directly behind Sylvar. "No, it cannot be." Sylvar's voice is small and desperate against the roar of the explosion. He turns around with trembling hands, and sees the lift pod behind him swallowed in roaring flames. Just then, a brash laugh rings through the cave. "Ha ha! This is the place!" As it fades, dozens of figures emerge slowly from the darkness. Their clothing is varied in color, but every one of them radiates a powerful presence. Warden Dong's face drains at the sight. He never imagined the adventurers would arrive this quickly. In this moment of crisis, I make my decision instantly. I scoop Vera up without a moment's hesitation and charge toward the exit. The adventurers see this and burst into exclamations. They never expected that the moment they arrived, they would encounter a goblin trying to run. The sheer audacity of it is an affront to their standing as silver rank adventurers. We are silver rank adventurers. If we let a single goblin get past us, we will be the laughingstock of everyone. Let me handle this. With that, a powerfully built man steps forward with a contemptuous smile, striding forward to cut me off, but I do not even glance at him and keep running, summoning a shadow at the same time. The next moment, a pitch-black shadow shoots out like a thrown blade, driving straight for the big man. Jace never imagined this goblin would have such a peculiar shadow-type skill, but as a seasoned adventurer, he steadies himself quickly, draws the broadsword at his hip, and slashes hard at the shadow. The next second, a thunderous crack rings out, the shadow is split in two, and the pieces dissolve into smoke, and melt into the man's own shadow. All of this happens in an instant. Faced with the surrounding adventurers, I have no intention of fighting them head-on. Instead, I use their brief moment of hesitation, adjust my position in an instant, and disappear from their sight. Jace watches me vanish from right before him, with a woman on my back, and his fury ignites immediately. He had fully expected to stop this unremarkable-looking goblin without difficulty. He did not expect to come out the worse for it. The adventurers around him see his fuming face and burst out laughing. "Jace, you're slipping." Hearing their laughter only makes Jace more furious. He grabs his sword and gives chase. No goblin escapes from me. The others keep laughing at his furious state. They figure I have some tricks, but there is no way I can stand up to Jace. After all, Jace is a silver rank adventurer. His strength is nothing to dismiss, so they have no interest in pursuing me themselves. There are still plenty of goblins here that look like they will put up a more interesting fight. Seeing the situation has deteriorated, a flash of resolve crosses Warden Dong's eyes. Split up! The goblins around him are already poised to scatter. Of them all, Shy is the fastest. Almost the instant Dong's order lands, Shy is already shot off like an arrow toward a predetermined direction. Meanwhile, I run into a small complication. Along my escape route, I come across a group of adventurers. They leer at me, and close in like hungry wolves, intent on catching us both. Just as they are about to reach me, an enormous dark mass rises from the ground and plants itself between them and me. It is a massive hammer formed from concentrated mana, radiating a presence that chills the bones, as though it could shake the very earth. The adventurers are driven back step by step and can only stare at Sylvar in shock. Sylvar slowly raises his head. "You want to pass? Then step over my corpse first." Someone among the adventurers laughs first. What is this goblin on about? But Sylvar is not shaken in the slightest. His eyes burn with undiminished resolve, as though he is channeling every ounce of his fury into strength. "You savages who know nothing of science and technology, do you have any idea what you just destroyed? That was over a decade of our labor. A home built with our blood and sweat. You foolish humans, I will make you regret ever setting foot in this place." As his roar fills the air, A terrifying mana begins to pour from him, sweeping across the battlefield like a gale, pushing every adventurer in range back step by step. The adventurers stare at what is unfolding before them, fear rising in their eyes. Only now do they understand that Sylvar is no ordinary goblin. His power is formidable. For a brief moment, they actually find themselves regretting their earlier arrogance, but it is already too late for that. Sylvar's roar grows louder and louder, his mana swelling with it. He heaves the great hammer in a mighty swing and charges at the adventurers. Following his lead, the remaining goblins launch their own counterattacks and the entire battlefield descends into chaos. Meanwhile, on the other side of the battle, Roan, the adventurer leader, waves his sword and laughs as he gestures at the fleeing goblins. "Leave this one to me, everyone else pick your own target." At those words, Lang's eyes sharpen with a keen glint. His gaze locks onto the somewhat slight Shy. Vayne, battle-axe in hand, charges straight for the largest of them, Warden Dong. Lisa streaks toward Baya like a bolt of lightning. "Hey you, put down that girl, or I will make you wish you were dead." Baya is startled by the shout and slings Tessa onto his back almost instantly, turning to run. He is the second of the three goblins to react, but his small build and the added weight of Tessa on his back leave him noticeably slower than the other two. Meanwhile, Lisa is blazing fast, her figure weaving through the corridor like a silver whirlwind. She closes the gap with Baya quickly, and in the same motion draws the sword at her hip, leveling it at him. Baya feels the sharp sword energy at his back and his face goes white in an instant. A wave of despair surges through him. Is this how it ends for me? Perhaps dying like this is not so bad. They are human. If I hand Tessa over to them, at least she will be safe. Perhaps it is to save himself. Perhaps it is concern for Tessa. He pushes Tessa forward, placing her between himself and Lisa. Lisa is startled by his movement and immediately sheathes her sword, catching Tessa in her arms. She never expected the goblin to use the girl as a shield. Baya uses the opening and runs away. Lisa watches his figure shrink into the distance and tightens her fist with fury. Then she turns to Tessa with concern. "Are you all right? Are you hurt?" Tessa stares at Lisa blankly, repeating the same words. "I am fine." She does not actually know what Baya was thinking when he pushed her away. She only knows that she has been abandoned again. Looking in the direction Baya disappeared, a strange feeling wells up from somewhere inside her. Lisa is just about to say something comforting when Tessa speaks first. "I am fine. How could anything be wrong with me?" She looks up and gives Lisa a bright, innocent smile, but that smile makes Lisa's skin prickle, a sense of unease rising in her chest. Everyone knows that people rescued from goblin nests, man or woman, are either shattered in spirit or gone vacant in the mind, but this little girl is behaving as though nothing happened, which is hard for her to make sense of. Lisa looks her over. The girl is far stronger than she expected, so she should be all right. For a brief moment, Lisa finds herself remembering her own first encounter with goblins. With that thought, she slowly crouches down and gives Tessa a warm smile. "How about I takes you out of here?" "Okay, sister." Her voice is sweet and her smile is radiant, but her eyes remain fixed in the direction Baya disappeared. Lisa notices something is off and follows Tessa's gaze, only to find nothing but darkness. Most of the goblins have been cleared out now that the invasion is underway, but just to be safe, it is better to get out first, and more importantly, she has not had enough kills yet. Meanwhile, a powerfully built man advances with a spear in hand, bearing down on Shy with furious momentum. "You damned goblin, stop right there!" His voice rolls in like thunder, making the very air around him shudder. His spear cuts through the air, driving straight for Shy's chest, but Shy only tilts his head slightly, the faintest curve at the corner of his mouth, as though amused by the man's ignorance. The man is puzzled by Shy's calm, but faced with a goblin that looks this small and weak, he does not take the warning seriously, assuming it is a bluff. The instant the spear is about to reach Shy, everything changes. Shy gives him a cold sidelong glance, and with a sudden explosion of sound, the ceiling cracks apart. Then several dark figures drop from above like phantoms, materializing between the spear and Shy. When the dust clears, the man sees that the dark figures are humans in black robes, their faces twisted into eerie smiles, their tattered robes covered in carved mystical runes. The spear passes straight through one of the black-robed figures, but the robed figure shows no sign of pain, and bursts out laughing. His laugh is sharp and piercing, echoing off the narrow corridor walls. The man moves to pull the spear back, but the robed figure only laughs louder. "How wonderful! This gate of passage was prepared especially for you. Feel the power flowing in from another world." With that, he actually places his hand on the spear and strokes it back and forth, as though savoring the sensation of pain itself. His face radiates satisfaction, as though the wound gushing blood is merely part of his performance. The man's scalp crawls at the sight. He has never faced an opponent this deranged and sinister. He can only grit his teeth and say, "You are from the Gate of Verity," and without pausing, he tightens his grip on the spear and wrenches hard. The next second, the spear surges with tremendous force, and tears a massive hole through the robed figure's body. But shockingly, the figure does not seem to care at all. A massive red flame erupts from the wound, blazing like hellfire, beginning to consume his own body without mercy. "Now you know what we are. Why not join us? Become a disciple of the Gate of Verity?" The man roars with fury and swings the spear again, driving it straight for the robed figure's heart. "I would never join you lunatics." Just as the spear is about to pierce through, a deep crimson flame erupts from the figure's chest and melts the spear in an instant. The firelight makes the robed figure's face look even more hideous and terrifying. "Come, Embrace the gate of verity. The words have barely left him before he transforms into a massive figure of living fire and lunges at the man. The man tries to flee in terror, but the robed figure seizes him tight. The flames spread across the man's entire body, swallowing him in unending agony. You damned cultists, do not think you are getting out of here. The gold rank adventurers will not let you go. They will all return to the embrace of verity. Every person here, every living thing, even the goblins are no exception. Let us all return to verity's embrace. Welcome the truth. As the words end, even more terrifying flames erupt from the robed figure. The man thrashes and screams, but it is no use. He can only pull all the water from his storage ring and pour it desperately over himself. But the flames seem to have a will of their own, devouring everything in their path, even water unable to extinguish them. In the end, they are both reduced to a pile of ash. The other robed figures find this entertaining, showing not the faintest grief over their companion's death. The black-robed woman at their head gives the ashes a cold, disinterested glance. Move on. We have much left to do. Besides the defiant things below, there are many to capture this time. No point wasting further time. At her command, the others fall in behind her and vanish into the darkness. Only the ashes remain, not yet fully scattered, drifting gently in the wind. Meanwhile, deep inside the goblin nest, Jace, face twisted with fury, grips a blood-streaked broadsword, cutting through every goblin in his path without slowing. His eyes blaze with reckless intensity. Every last goblin deserves to die. With Jace closing in, Vera calls out with concern, "Why not put me down?" At her words, I let go without a moment's hesitation. Vera suddenly loses all support and lands hard on the ground. That hurts! She looks up expecting some kind of explanation, but when she does, I am already gone. The cave falls into complete silence, as though even the air has stopped moving. She looks everywhere and cannot find a single trace of me. For a moment, she thinks she has been abandoned. The instant the thought takes hold, a wave of despair washes over her. She had longed to escape this terrifying nest, but now that it is actually happening, she feels a loss and unease she cannot put into words. She does not know what to do, and can only sit there on the ground crying quietly. Just then, she hears a faint sound nearby, and at this same moment, Jace, who has been chasing me all along, catches up. He finds that the strange goblin has vanished, leaving only a woman. When his gaze falls on Vera, the angry flame in his eyes transforms instantly into one of greed. Vera's graceful figure and striking beauty are made even more alluring by the moonlight. Jace swallows, an unnameable impulse rising within him, and he instinctively closes in on Vera. Sensing the blunt, naked greed he is radiating, Vera feels a surge of panic. She draws herself up and tries to keep distance between them. What do you want? What do I want? Isn't it obvious? He reaches out with a rough hand to grab her. Vera recoils and struggles to get away from his grasp, but her resistance is no match for him and only seems to fuel his desire. Just as he starts tearing at Vera's clothes, a cold gleam flashes through the air, followed immediately by a shriek. It is me. I have been watching from the shadows all along. My blade crosses Jace's throat. Blood sprays across the stone wall. I give the body on the ground a dispassionate glance and turn to Vera, who is slumped on the ground. Leaving now? Hearing this, Vera's face lights up. She instinctively moves to throw herself at me, but I sidestep her neatly. She ends up face down on the ground, rear in the air. I show not the slightest appreciation for the view. I simply ask again, "Are you leaving or not?" At that, Vera scrambles up immediately, the hand that had been reaching for me, dropping back to her side when she meets my cold gaze. Just as we are about to step out of the exit, I sense something, and pull Vera to a hard stop. Almost simultaneously, 3 groups converge at the junction on the second level. I take a step back, eyes sharp as I take in both the black-robed figures and the human adventurers. A brief silence falls, before Amy from the adventurer side breaks it. "Are you from the Gate of Verity? Are you those cultists?" Recognizing them, Amy and her companions go on high alert instantly. They direct nearly all their attention toward the cultists, because compared to these cultists, I am a far lesser threat. Goblins can always be killed later, cultists are another matter. All the more so since Amy is a priest, and she has a particular loathing for cultists. Only Morris stands staring at me, oblivious to everything else. Just then, the black-robed woman addresses Amy's group. "Move aside, and if we do not, then you will all return to Verity's embrace." At that, a faint holy light begins to radiate from Amy as she raises her fist. "Oh, then allow me to send you down to meet this so-called Verity of yours myself." Seeing that a fight is about to break out, my eyes sharpen, and the instant the clash begins, I seize the opening, scoop up Vera, and shoot straight through the gap between them. The instant I move, Morris releases the slash he has been building, aiming it straight down at me. Dita, who noticed Morris's state early, sees him in order to kill a goblin, about to cut down an innocent young woman along with me, and in his shock cannot hold back a shout. "Morris!" Morris hates goblins most, but at least he has always maintained the most basic line a person will not cross, never taking an innocent life in pursuit of a goblin. And yet now, for the sake of killing me, he is not hesitating for even a moment to cut down a young woman. Dita wants to stop Morris. He does not know what has possessed Morris to act this way, but he knows that if Morris goes through with it, he will regret it. He cannot let it happen, but it is already too late to stop it. As that silver-white blade arc cuts through the air, the blessing in Vera's hands is building toward release. After what Jace did to her, she no longer trusts the adventurers here as she once did. She is just about to call out a warning to me, when I hoist her entire body and launch her forward. In midair, she releases the light and it lands on me. In that instant, my body feels significantly lighter, and my strength surges considerably. But before I can fully feel it, the slash comes crashing straight down at me. The instant it is about to connect, my body rapidly darkens and the blade passes cleanly through. Seeing this, Morris reacts immediately. He throws a transparent sphere, and a blinding radiance erupts from it, driving me out of the shadow. The next second, a broadsword launches from my hand and flies toward Morris. He lets out a cold laugh and tilts his head to let it graze past his face, but as it passes, he catches the smell of gunpowder. He takes a closer look. There is explosive strapped to the back of the blade. Before he can react, the blast smoke engulfs him completely. He is just about to swing his blade and cut through the smoke. When a flash of a blade cuts through, he looks more closely. It is a pitch-black shadow. Looking at the blade in the shadow's hand, everything becomes clear to him at once. I had used his thrown light sphere to merge my shadow into the shadow of the thrown blade, using the blade's flight as cover for a shadow assassination, and the explosive strapped to it had kicked up smoke to obscure his vision, creating an opportunity for the shadow to assassinate him, one move after another. With this realization, his resolve to kill me only hardens, no matter the cost, against the shadow that comes at him again. He cleaves it in two with a single stroke, and I use that brief window to slip away. Losing track of me, Morris comes to a dim realization. I may have been buying time from the very beginning. But then the world voice starts chiming in his head again and again. Traces of the Goblin King candidate detected. Your personal skill Goblin Bane activates. You have located the Goblin King candidate's trail. A tracking marker has appeared in your mind. Note, if the distance exceeds 10 kilometers, the marker will disappear. I will not let you escape again, Morris growls. Dita reaches out and grabs his arm. Noticing that something is wrong, Dita speaks with concern. Morris, what is going on with you? Our enemy right now is the Gate of Verity, and what in the world were you just trying to do? You almost... But Morris yanks himself free of Dita's grip in an instant. All that exists in his mind right now is to kill me. No matter whose life it costs, he will do it without hesitation. He charges after me without looking back, not sparing his teammates so much as a glance. At the sight of this, the cultists laugh even louder. Even your captain has abandoned you. Why not join the Gate of Verity? Amy responds by punching the speaking cultist into the ground. What are you blabbering about? We are more than enough to deal with the likes of you. Dita trusts Morris. He is our captain. Fiona glances back at Dita, who is standing frozen. Dita nods instinctively. It is the first time he has ever seen that expression on Morris's face. It has not yet taken root? What are you talking about? It makes no difference. A year from today will be your day of death. Come back with us now for judgment. There is still time. In response to what Amy says, the saint from the Gate of Verity gives a quiet laugh. Go back? So you can deliver me to your god as a slave? Can your kind truly not satisfy him yourselves? How dare you slander the divine? Amy raises her divine force-wrapped fist and swings it at the saint, but her fist that could shatter the earth itself is blocked by the saint.